What's good, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Mythic Banter. As always, I am joined by Rurikon, looking serious as ever for this jam-packed episode of the Mythic Banter.
It is a very serious episode. There's a lot of news. There's a lot of things to talk about, but the reality is I only care about one thing, Akalon. You know what that is?
What is that?
This. Look at this. Look at this. Look at it. This is my new kill team, bro. Look at the detail on this miniature, bro. Do you see this?
Yeah.
Look at this. Ridiculous amounts of detail. You like my minis, bro? These are the Earthkin Salvagers from the Leagues of Votann.
It looks good.
Look at this dude. He's going to shoot you with this gun.
Yeah. It looks good. It's going to be one hell of an edit, but it does look good.
What do you mean one hell of an edit? I swapped camera angles dynamically, bro. It's perfect. You didn't even have to do anything.
I'm going to have to frame that. But I'll do it. I might do it big screen so people can actually see properly, right? Put you in the big screen. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, can I give a massive shout out to all of you for subscribing to this channel? We've just hit 1,600 subs on the channel, which is amazing. So thank you so much for that. You guys are absolute rock stars. And if you have not subscribed yet, and there's plenty of you, like this channel continuously gets way more views than what we have subs. Consider subscribing. Yeah, obviously, it's amazing. You know,
it's a good thing.
Consider subscribing. You know, drop a little. Just hit that button like it's your stepsister. It helps.
Yes. Wait. you keep throwing that one out there, expecting I won't catch it, but I catch it every time.
You said yes. You absolutely said yes. That's the endorsement from Rurikon. No. That you should absolutely slap your stepsister. Okay, but before we get into the episode, let's talk polls. We love to do this poll every single week. It comes out at the same time as the podcast. Last week's poll was, should Expedition 33 be... Yeah?
I just got this mental image when it said, we love to do polls. I was imagining you on a stripper pole. It was not a good mental image.
Dude, I would not want to see myself on a stripper pole. Let's just be honest about that. But should Expedition 33 be a wake-up call for the industry? Now, about 83% said yes, 6% no, and 11% were like, just show me the results, bro. I couldn't care less about this, which I appreciate. I appreciate people who just go, I don't really have an opinion on this. I just want to see what everyone else's opinion is so that I can laugh at them in case they're wrong, right?
Yes.
So, but something that did stand out to me was a comment that I think we should absolutely talk about on the polls. It's a comment that came from Gua Senpai. And Gua Senpai said, to be honest, I'm sick and tired of whenever there's a good game that releases, it's immediately called a wake-up call for the gaming industry. These wake-up calls always come off as not necessarily a call for the industry itself, but for gamers instead, telling them, hey, this game that came out that's really good, well, there's tons like it that come out each year that you never experience because you don't actively look for them. Stop focusing on the AAA part of the industry, as it's not the only part of the gaming industry, and give your attention to the other parts like AA games and indie games. Now, the reason this comment stood out to me, and genuinely I'm not trying to clown on you or attack you, but your comment is interesting because it is indicative of a sort of sense that a lot of people will have, where they'll say, oh, if you don't like what the AAA industry is doing, just stop talking about them and start focusing on indie instead. That's valid from a personal perspective, right? So in my personal daily life, I play way more indie games than what I play AAA. Like, astronomically more. The issue is that most indie games are incredibly niche. And so you can't really only speak about them because, you know, it's every once in a while you'll get a Schedule 1 that sort of breaks through. But when we talk about the gaming industry, oftentimes the AAA, or at least it used to be, I think what makes this comment interesting is, I would like to get your thoughts on this, Rurikon. It feels like we're almost at an inflection point. In the past, the AAA would sort of determine the direction of the industry, and then most indie companies would just sort of copy what the AAA is doing because that used to be what's successful and works. But it does feel like the last few years, there's been a divergence where you have the AAA going in their direction and indie sort of going, we'll go this way.
So
what do you make of that?
The situation with this comment is actually something that I can really appreciate, because the whole thing about, this is a wake-up call. I kind of feel like Legendary Drops started that type of trend of making titles like that, and then a bunch of people started copying him. I could be wrong. That's kind of how I feel things started. I've done a couple of podcasts with Legendary Drops. Super cool guy, by the way.
Yeah.
But the reality is, the reason why I feel this person is probably sick of these wake-up calls is because algorithm. YouTube algorithm. That's just the way that it works. The reason people talk about things like this is because they're getting traction in the algorithm, and it's all for the almighty algorithm. One of the things that frustrates me a lot, and I think that a lot of people are going to take this the wrong way. I'm not frustrated because of the success that Expedition 33 is having. I think they definitely deserve it. I think it's absolutely phenomenal, right? But one of the things that frustrates me is, whereas games like Expedition 33 and some other AA games that have been like shot into the stratosphere through the algorithm and all of this because more people talked about them, not that many people talk about Remnant 2.
Wow.
This is one of the things that I always try to bring. I always bring it up.
Remnant 2 back into the conversation.
Dude, I'm the Remnant 2 glazer. Okay, I'm here to glaze Remnant. But the point that I'm making, right, is that Remnant 2, from my experience, after having played it a significant amount of time, deserves just as much praise as Expedition 33. But nobody talks about it. Why? Because it didn't blow up in the algorithm, therefore it does not deserve being talked about as much, because it's not going to get as many views and all of that usual stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating because there are probably a ton of video games out there that are, I'm not going to say just as good, because Expedition 33 is definitely an exceptional game, but there are a lot of games out there that also deserve to be talked about, but almost nobody is really talking about them. And that's very frustrating. And I think that this is what this person is honing in on, because what they're saying is like, if you just stop chasing after all the AAA titles that are the big, blockbusters like GTA 6, which we'll talk about in today's episode, and other AAA titles that people are going to be talking about, and you just actually focus on looking for some of these niche titles, you will find amazing video games to play. And a lot of people aren't doing that because they're just relying on the algorithm to kind of like curate what's best, because what is best supposedly will rise up to the top and will eventually be talked about. But the reality is, because of the way that the algorithm works, it doesn't work like that. You can have like an absolute banger video game. Like, I'm going to throw out another example that I bring often when it comes to these discussions, but you can have an absolute banger of a video game like Soul Sacrifice, and 90% of the gaming community has no idea what this game is. They're like, Soul Sacrifice, the fuck is that? Is that a Dark Souls game? No, it's not. It's actually a Monster Hunter clone, but with wizards. And people are like, wait, what? Yeah, it's insane. It has probably one of the best stories in video games that I've ever experienced. I mean, second only to Final Fantasy XIV, because that one was very special and all that. But like, Soul Sacrifice's story is phenomenal. And again, it's a video game. Not enough people talk about it. Almost nobody even knows that it exists, because it's all about the algorithm.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. It's about the algorithm. The algorithm dictates what comes to the top. Now, to the second part of your question, we are definitely at an inflection point where we are seeing AAA stumble all over itself, and we're going to be seeing a rise of AA. Like, we've seen it with Path of Exile 2. We've seen it with Expedition 33. I would love to see it more with Remnant 2. Palworld, exactly. And there will be even more.
I know people like to say, well, Helldivers was published by Sony. Yes, but the studio that made it is a AA studio.
And there's a game that actually got an update recently that I'm going to be streaming later today. Not when the podcast goes live, but it will have been streamed the day before. Yeah, which is No
People
Rest for the Wicked. They also got like
going onto your channel going, where is he?
He's not live. He's lying.
What a liar.
Yeah, it's because tomorrow I'm going to be playing Kill Team by the time you're watching this podcast. See, but like the thing that I was saying, that another game is No Rest for the Wicked got like a massive update. They're also doing like really fun stuff with that game. I'm going to be checking it out today because I haven't seen the latest update. But yeah, there's tons of games out there, and I think that AA will inevitably take over AAA because AAA is just too. It's too bloated. It's way too bloated, and you can tell like they're struggling. They're crumbling over the weight of their own inadequacies and just like the bloat. And again, Expedition 33 being a wake up call is just. I think one of the reasons why so many people focused in on this is because it's made by like 30 people. 30 people plus the voice actors and all of that stuff, but like 30 programmers, animators, that type of stuff. And it's like, it's impressive what they've managed to do with 30 people, and it just shows you that like you don't need 300, 500 people to make like a really good looking, good performing, and just overall fantastic experience of a video game. Yeah,
I think to sort of I absolutely agree with your point, and I get where Gua Senpai is coming from. I think what people need to understand is it is true that the wake up call is completely overused and almost written hollow at this point because every game becomes a wake up call. I think where we have to be sort of discerning for ourselves is figuring out when is a game legitimately supposed to be a wake-up call and when isn't it? And where it considers Expedition 33, Expedition 33 is a game that directly flies against what the AAA labeled as dead, no longer worthy of being pursued as a video game sort of concept. Yoshi P famously has an interview, and Sebi Webs have been making a lot of waves about this on his X account, because Yoshi P famously said Final Fantasy needs to move away from turn-based combat. It's not what people want. People want action combat. And Expedition 33 comes out. It basically runs it back to like Final Fantasy X and games of that nature. And it's phenomenal. People are loving it. You know, people are absolutely adoring the combat system, absolutely adoring what the combat is. And I will say, once you get to Act 3, the ability to break the game, like just one-shot things with like insane damage, is so much fun.
And are you already at Act 3?
Yeah, I'm in Act 3.
Damn.
Yeah,
I haven't had that much time.
I've been no-lifing it, bro. Like whenever I'm not working, I'm playing Expedition 33, and I actually want to start again because I want to do something else. I want to see if this can actually work, but we'll see if I even get there. But fundamentally, so this is serving as that sort of wake-up call that the AAA needs to wake up from. But it does appear as if AAA, you know, for the longest time, AAA determined the direction of the industry. And now, finally, Indie and AA has woken up and said, maybe we'll do our own thing. You know, maybe we won't do what you guys are doing because what you guys are doing clearly isn't working. And we're seeing so much success within AA. The other thing, you brought up No Rest for the Wicked. One of the very big actual sort of changes we are seeing is when developers are actually in tune with the community. So both Thomas and also the guy from Lords of the Fallen, they're very active on X, replying to people in comments, posting about their thinkings of the game. Like you literally, when you follow Thomas, who's the creator of Moon Studios, I think, the people behind No Rest for the Wicked, they're basically giving you a live update on their thinking. On their X account, they're constantly telling you, oh, we're looking at this now. We don't know what do you guys think? And then obviously players go, well, I love this or I don't love this. And it allows them to make informed decisions based on the feedback they're getting from their players in real time, which is, again, something you don't see from the AAA industry, right? They don't give a crap about what their people are saying. And then to your Remnant 2 point, when did Remnant 2 come out?
Somewhere very shortly after Diablo 4. I think this was 2023.
Yeah.
So it was like around 20th of July, give or take. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was around that time, yeah.
So I think Remnant 2 was sort of a victim of timing. You see, it was early 2024 when the culture war sort of blew up, right? With that now infamous tweet from the Sweet Baby Ink guy that tried to get his fans to attack a gamer. And then suddenly people were like, wait, Sweet Baby Ink? What's going on here? And then people realized, oh, wait, there's an entire machine meant to get games as political as possible. And since then, I think gamers in general have become a lot more sort of adversarial towards game companies in general. Like, not even from a culture war perspective, just ordinary gamers have become a lot more aggressive towards game studios and what game studios are doing. There's a lot more backlash now than ever before. You know, it used to be make a bad game, who cares? But what's happened as a sort of counter to all of this is smaller games that do the things we want get celebrated a lot more, almost again as if to protest the AAA failing. You know, so whenever a AAA company doesn't get to make that great game, but then a AA company comes out and absolutely nails it, people celebrate that as almost like a way to tell the AAA, this is what you should be doing. Hey, this is what you should be focusing on. And I think Remnant 2 basically came out just before that game would have benefited from it as well. Because I do hear some people, like Endymion has tweeted about Remnant 2 quite a few times. Legendary Drops I've seen tweet about it as well. So there are people that do, like yourself, love Remnant 2. But I think at the time Remnant 2 came out, there wasn't yet this sort of, I don't even want to call it culture war, because not everyone that is currently part of the quote-unquote war, and I use that word very, very loosely, are necessarily part of the culture side of the war. A lot of people are genuinely just in this war because they don't like what AAA is doing to games, and they want that to change. So, you know, the war sort of has multiple fronts now, I guess you could say, of everyone fighting their own battles.
And lots of infighting and lots of like...
obviously.
I don't like commenting too much on the culture war, as you know, but one of the things that I will say is that definitely at some point in 2024, I feel like the people that are in the gaming community, they've gotten way more involved in talking about stuff and voicing their opinions.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, a lot of those people also got very, very, very extreme. And I've noticed that across multiple communities that I interact with on a daily basis, including even the Monster Hunter community. Like people, like it's almost like at a certain point they've even gotten a filter, which is like they're looking specifically at certain things and then they go the most extreme route. Now I'm not saying this is a majority. I'm saying like, you know, some portions of communities.
You don't even need a majority. You need like 5% to completely blight a community, right? If just 5% of people are hyper vitriolic, they'll poison that well very quickly. Because the problem is they get hyper vitriolic. They turn a lot of other people poisonous because they're sick and tired of seeing the poison. And before you know it, the entire thing is just a mess.
But I think that one of the important things is also they end up driving other people from the discussion, because there's a lot of people that, you know, they're doing their 9 to 5.
Yeah.
They come to video games to just like chill, and they go online and it's just a bunch of people spewing vitriol and they're like, fuck this.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck this. I'm out. But yeah.
I mean, it's one of the reasons why I always try to stay balanced. I can't be unbiased, because I have my biases.
But there's nobody unbiased. The myth of the unbiased is one of the things that I hate the most. Everybody's like, "Oh, I'm so unbiased."
Dude,
sure.
I literally get
thing, Johnny,
in my hole when people go, "My unbiased opinion." And it's like, really?
In my unbiased opinion,
unbiased? Sure. Surely not, sir. Like, the only way you can have an unbiased opinion is if you have no thoughts whatsoever. Like, this is the first thought you've ever had in your life.
if somebody lobotomized you, then maybe you can have an unbiased opinion.
Yeah.
Probably not a very smart one, though, but yeah.
No, but you can be balanced insofar as I always try to recognize what my bias is, and then I'll be honest, right? And say, right, this is my bias, but this is me trying to be as generous as I can towards the other side. Whatever that side may be, because even me in the culture war fight on multiple angles. I don't just fight the culture war. But you are right. I think the culture war has brought out some of the worst people on both sides. And
Absolutely.
Obviously, every side wants to point to the other side as having the worst people. And it's like, well, if we go down the list, there's some pretty bad people on all sides here. But I find it best to just sort of gloss over those guys and focus on what is important to me, which is saving the gaming industry, if that is even like a thing that you need to do. I know that sounds so like, oh, saving the gaming industry as if it's crumbling. I should say saving the AAA industry, because I don't think it can be saved, but you should at least try, because there's some phenomenal IPs within that industry that would be sort of sad to see those IPs just go the way of the dodo bird.
I think our future is tabletop, bro. Tabletop's the way.
I don't think
right
we're, because that would be going back in the past.
Yes.
I think the future is
back to the origins. It's all about dice rolls, baby.
I think the future is AA and AAA. And I will say something that literally, as you said it, I just realized Claire Expedition 33 is sort of a tabletop. It's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of like a D&D tabletop-esque kind of play.
Since we're talking so much about Expedition 33, I have an interesting take that I threw out onto the world yesterday, and I think actually a lot of people agree with me, which is, if you are someone who's playing Expedition 33, which chances are you are, because a lot of people are playing it right now, and you are comfortable with the parry system. I'm not saying you're a parry god, but if you're just comfortable parrying a couple of moves here and there, you are likely able to beat Sekiro without struggling too much. Because let me tell you, the parry windows in Expedition 33 are actually tighter and harder to predict than the parry windows in Sekiro. Sekiro is, I find Sekiro parrying to be easier than parrying in Expedition 33. Wow. So therefore, if you are able to beat Expedition 33, you're likely able to jump into Sekiro and beat Sekiro. So just throwing that out there.
I mean, in
case anybody's interested.
Since we're on Expedition 33, we should probably also talk about one of the topics that was supposed to be much later in the video, but since we're here, we may as well. But before we get into that, the parry windows, oh man. Once you get to Act 3, you'll understand.
They're vicious!
It's hell, bro. It's hell.
I know.
You haven't finished Act 2 yet, have you?
I haven't even finished Act 1.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then I won't spoil anything for you, but just know, if your parrying sucks a little, now's the time to focus on fixing that, bro. Because there are some bosses that do attack chains. It's like 13 hits where you have to parry every single one, or else you don't get the counter. It is ridiculous. And some of them one shot. So, just gonna put that out there. It gets rough. And you think that right now all you have is dodge and parry. That's not all you have. There's more coming. Just stick with it. You'll see. It's gonna get fun. I'm so looking forward to recording Act 3, boys. So looking forward to hearing him go, what the? But, okay, we should just talk about why I can't say this guy's name. Me and French names don't even care. It's Guillaume something or other. Guillaume Broche.
Guillaume Broche.
There's an owl, so there's Guillaume. Guillaume Broche, and Rurikon can pretend he's French. But the reason this guy actually made his game is just the greatest story ever. And I have a couple of other pieces of information now. he was genuinely just bored at Ubisoft. He was sitting at Ubisoft working on some mind-numbing game that the executives wanted him to work on. And he sort of went, but why am I doing this? Why am I here? And he just said,
my man got an existential crisis while working at Ubisoft.
and he was just like,
their particular brand of gray slop is so disgusting. It caused this man to have an existential crisis. He's like, what am I doing with my life?
But what's interesting is what he says around why he ultimately left. Because he came up with this idea for a game like Clair Obscur. Obviously, at the time, it was just an idea. So it probably didn't even have a name yet. But he then realized trying to get this idea through to actually be a game that they work on at Ubisoft would take like a decade. Just because of all the people it has to pass through before it finally gets greenlit. And if it even gets greenlit. Because if at any point of all of these layers and layers of managers, one of those managers says, nope, I don't like this idea, the game dies, right? So you can pitch an idea and only find out 2 or 3 years later, your idea was scratched.
So this thing that you're explaining right now just instantly reminds me of the Steve Jobs speech. You remember the Steve Jobs speech where he talked about the whole thing that you need to focus on the product people because then the marketing people, they get a hold of control of the company and all that. And then all of a sudden they're the ones that are in control and the product people get left behind. And yes, this is the most perfect example of that, which is something that we've talked about happening in the video game industry for the longest time. We've talked about this happening, and this thing that you're saying is the absolute confirmation. So this guy is working at Ubisoft. He has this banger idea for a video game, and this isn't even like, oh, I got this great idea, bro. It's like, no, this was a banger idea for the video game. It's proven now. It's sold like 2 million copies by now with 30 people, like really small budget, and they did a banger job, right? So it's like it's proven that this was a fantastic idea. But he has this banger idea, and he instantly knows this will never work.
Yeah,
this will never get greenlit because of all the fucking people that I have to go suck their dick. And at any point, if I choke or something, they're going to be like, oh, I didn't like it. It's like, oh, too much teeth. And then it's like just gets instantly canceled. That's the way that it goes. And the dude is just like, you know what? I don't feel like sucking cock. Yeah. All right. I just have this good idea to make a good video game. I'm just going to go make this good video game and fuck all these people that expect me to kiss their ass and suck their dick. Okay. Yeah. And I think that more people in the industry need to do that because very much like Guillaume, I'm sure that there's people like this at EA. I'm sure there's people like this at Activision, at Sony, at Microsoft. Now is the time, boys. Take that vision that you have, focus on getting like a really core team. And boom, Bob's your uncle. You got to do it. You got to do it. Get into the AA. That's the way to do it.
I mean, to be fair, there's a book that...
For a second, I thought you were going to argue the values of sucking dick.
No. There's a book that was written about chaos theory, right? Now, I'm sort of working my way through the book. It's a big one. It's a big book. And a lot of the concepts in there...
That's the thing that Jeff Goldblum kept harping on about during Jurassic Park. You ever heard about the theory of chaos?
Oh, yeah.
And he goes with little droplets as they go across
chaos theory. Chaos theory sort of, it's a huge field in physics, and it sort of describes everything. Because chaos theory is, unlike the name suggests, it's not about chaos, it's about the predictive qualities of chaos. So using
chaos
like theory,
heresy.
But what's super interesting, probably is, right? But what's super interesting about this book, I can't remember the name now. It's in the other room. I can go get the book if needs be. But in this book, they actually talk about, like, every chapter is about different industries that sort of how chaos theory predicts and what happens to these industries. And in one of the chapters, they're talking about the failure of companies. and how companies end up failing. And looking at these companies, the main predictor for company collapse is inefficiency. And the main thing driving inefficiency is when a company reaches a certain size, the 80-20 rule comes into effect. Now, the 80-20 rule is a mathematical equation that basically exists everywhere. All over, in every single element of nature, we see the 80-20 rule play out. In companies, the 80-20 rule is 80% of the work gets done by 20% of the people. Now, what they found...
We have the 80-20 rule in this podcast. 80% of the work is done by you.
But, I mean, that quite... Well, I am probably 80% of this podcast in sheer mass, right? So it kind of makes sense, I guess.
What the fuck?
Dude, I'm just trying to rationalize what you said. But fundamentally, what happens in something like Ubisoft is as it grows and it acquires more people because it obviously wants to make more games, because it wants to make more money, you get the 80-20 rule. 20% of the people are doing 80% of the work. So the managers start to go, wait, we're hiring all of these more people, but we're not particularly making games faster. Things aren't happening more. So we need to hire more people. The problem there is with every, let's say, I think it's something like every 25 or 30 people you hire, you need a manager to manage those people to make sure that they actually do their job, right? So that includes now a bunch of other people that have to be hired in order to hire the 30 or 40 new developers. And then you need managers to manage the managers. And, you know, it very quickly leads to this giant conglomerate mess where nothing ever actually gets done. Because if you want to make a game, like Jalome Broche explained here, you have to send it up the totem pole. And it has to pass through multiple managers.
There's too much bureaucracy, and people can't steer the ship fast enough to actually make meaningful changes. But the worst part about this, right, is you figured, well, okay, but that's needed because of this and that and the other. It's actually, the reality is it's not needed. It's a bunch of people that are trying to justify their jobs. It's just that simple.
That's literally
and Claire Obscure, Expedition 33 absolutely proves that there's a bunch of people somewhere along the chain that are literally worthless, contribute absolutely nothing towards the product, and all they do is, you know, create roadblocks. And a lot of these people are fucking grandfathered in because, like, they're somebody's friend or some bullshit like that. Because at the end of the day, like every other industry, it's not even about how skilled you are most of the time. It's about who you know in the industry. I mean, which is, there's also, it's just the way that it goes.
There's the argument of nepotism that is absolutely true. There's the argument then also of DEI being applied in its worst possible form. All of these things contribute to an industry that has become incapable of actually making games. Because, guys, games are also incredibly time sensitive. Right? A game that worked this year might not work next year or the year after, because gamers sort of go through these cycles. And you'll see it. If you're a content creator, you'll see it. We go into the survival cycle, and then everyone is making a bloody survival game. And then we go into the shooter cycle, and everyone's making... Because we go through cycles in our lives. So if it takes 10 years before you can even get approval to start making your game, you may have missed the train. Which means you're going to have to wait another 10 years before your cycle actually passes again. It's just ridiculous, and it cannot work. Speaking of ridiculous... Although we don't know if it will work or not, I guess swift change into the first topic, or what was supposed to be the first topic for today.
Hey! 34 minutes, gotta be a record.
Yeah, I mean, this is one hell of an intro. And we managed in the intro to do one of the topics out of order, but still, you know, that's just how we are, guys. Super professional. We're always like this.
Absolutely.
But we have to talk about, and this probably, maybe we should have put this at the end of the podcast, because there might be a lot of people that leave after this discussion. But we have to talk about GTA 6 trailer 2. And what did you think of the trailer?
Yeah, I cared about as much going in as I cared about going out. It's like, like, listen, I'm just not the target audience for GTA anymore. I think that the single player story will probably be interesting, but at the same time, I don't know. GTA 5, I feel like might have been peak when it comes to the stories that they were going to tell with that, because I think that dynamic of switching between the three characters was really cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Doing like a couple story, I don't know how that's going to work out. I guess we'll see, but it kind of already limits your options a little bit, because like, are you going to backstab Lucia and go to like a stripper bar? Is that how's that character going to feel about that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to go bang a prostitute? How's Lucia going to feel about that? It's like, it's going to limit your options of the things that people want to do in GTA. But again, I'm not informed of what the story is. Maybe they have an open relationship. I don't know what the deal is with that. So I guess we'll have to find out. But I don't want to judge it too harshly, because again, I haven't played it. I hope it's good for the people that care about it. But me personally, I'm not super excited about it. And the trailer did absolutely nothing to change my mind on it.
I'll say this, right? I made a video on this as well, and as you can imagine, the responses to my video was very balanced and well thought out, and not at all filled with vitriol and anger and people sort of claiming I said things I never even said, because apparently that's just the thing we do now. But one of the things I didn't sort of say in my video about the trailer, which I should have, in hindsight, this was a mistake on my part, is the trailer does look phenomenal, especially when you consider the whole thing is captured on PlayStation 5 with in-game cinematics. So the cinematics are not CGI created specifically for
not pre-rendered.
Yeah, they're, well, they
are CGI. They are computer-generated graphics. They're not pre-rendered cinematics. It's a different thing.
But when you say CGI, people understand. You get World of Warcraft cinematics that's absolutely not what's going to be in the game, right? That's not how it is going to be in the game.
I have no idea what you're talking about. The characters look exactly like that in my head.
But fundamentally, it looked phenomenal. And look, this is what Rockstar is known for. Look at what happened in Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, the amount of detail that Rockstar gets right and the way they do it is absolutely fantastic. And in this game, again, you see the muscles, for example, on the male protagonist. It's probably the most realistic looking muscles we've ever seen on a gaming character. It doesn't, I mean, to be fair though, and the reason I didn't bring this up originally is I'm not a guy that cares about graphics. Like, graphics doesn't bother me. I'll play a game that has shit graphics if the art style works.
But a solid art style.
Yeah.
Yes.
If the art style works, I'm super happy with it. Like, I don't care. Oh, I can see the muscles twitching as he's punching this guy in the dick. Well, I don't really care about that. Why is he punching the guy in the dick?
Horse
because that's
testicles.
The other thing I care about, right?
Horse testicles, man. They shrink when you're in snow.
Yeah. So it's not something that I care about, but I get that this is something Rockstar loves to do. They love to push the envelope of what technology can actually achieve. So I'm super happy to acknowledge that it looks phenomenal. My point was...
I sense a big, ugly butt.
Yeah. My
coming in.
My butt on this is a trailer that's meant to make me hyped for the game. Now, I'm hyped for GTA 6 purely because I really love GTA 5. But this trailer, whether it came out or didn't come out, would have moved my hype meter in zero ways. The everything else about the trailer just felt off. The music didn't really fit. I get that they were trying to show sort of focus and hone in on this romance side of the story, but I'm gonna be honest with you, that didn't really land for me.
Bro, That video, when I looked at it yesterday, had 86 million views.
Yep.
It now has 92 million views.
Yep. That's GTA, bro. That game is going to sell.
It's gonna cross 100 million views later today, most likely.
Bro, I saw people going, "Oh yeah, it's already a failure," and I was like, "What? What are we doing here? Like, come on, guys!
Failure?
Like, it's GTA. It's Rockstar. Like, these guys could bring out slop at this point, and it'll sell, and for good reason.
It'll sell once.
Yeah.
Slop will sell once.
Oh yeah, but it is for good reason. This company has, for whatever reason, right? It has a stellar sort of persona within the industry. And I say for whatever reason, because for as good as they make their games, they're also greedy little scumbags. But I think it sort of proves the point that I made years back in World of Warcraft. If you want to be greedy, you also have to be good.
Yep.
People don't mind greed if what you're giving them is insanely good games. Then they're like, yeah, well, be greedy. I'm having the time of my life playing this. It's when you make subpar video games, but your greed is quadruple A. That's when people get really pissed off. So,
Ubisoft.
Yeah, Ubisoft is a great example of a game that when they say quadruple A, what they mean is below indie quality video gaming at quadruple A monetization options, right?
Hells yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's sort of the thing, right? It's not going to fail, but the trailer didn't land for me. There were some things in the trailer that just felt, I don't know. I was watching it. I didn't have a problem with any one specific thing in the trailer. It was more just, I watched it and at no point did I even crack a smile. I was literally just going.
I think that it's the fact that these games are now targeted towards more younger audiences.
Yeah.
So the editing style might have like turned you off because it's kind of like quick cuts and, shiny bright colors and set pieces and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because, that's just the way that it goes. These games are now targeted to, and TikTok has ruined people's, and people are going to be like, wow, Rurikon's reading so much into it. No, absolutely. There's like psychologists and stuff that these people have on staff that are checking what their demographic is, what their average attention span is, and that is absolutely getting inserted back into the editing process of a major trailer. I promise you, this is 100% happening.
Oh, yeah.
So, it is what it is. Now, we do have some bad news for everybody that's excited for the game, which is it got delayed to next year. Now, I know exactly why they delayed it, in case you guys are wondering. It is because they did not want it to have to face off against Monster Hunter Wilds at the Game Awards, because it was absolutely going to take game.
I think you're coping, but I'll let you cook. I'll let you.
Yeah, I'm going hardcore.
Rurikon just sitting there, putting the pot on the stove, getting into the pot, pouring the boiling water into the pot. Getting really
like a nice little Chatacabra frog sitting there boiling. No, it's. I think Expedition 33 has the highest chances of winning so far. But my game of the year is still, listen, you know how you were talking about biases and all of that shit? Yeah. I'm not even biased. No, I am. I'm brutally biased. Monster Hunter is going to be my game of the year. I don't give a fuck. It is what it is.
I think the reason I wouldn't give it to Monster Hunter is, one, I haven't played Monster Hunter yet. But two, and very specifically, Monster Hunter is just a phenomenal sort of build upon what was already phenomenal. Right? It's more of the same, just better. Whereas Expedition 33 comes out of nowhere and does things that no other game in the last decade has even attempted to do at this scale. And I think the feat of them being able to do it with just 30 people, a lot of which, by the way, are first-time developers. The original rumor was that it's all Ubisoft ex-devs, senior devs. That's actually not true. Of the 30 people, 12 are from Ubisoft. 4 of the 12...
And they picked some people off of Reddit or something like that, which was crazy.
4 of the people are industry veterans that come from Ubisoft. The others were junior devs at Ubisoft that this guy sort of saw potential in. And then the rest are just, a lot of them, this is literally the first game ever for them. They've never made a game in their entire lives. They're just passionate about gaming. And Jalom was like, hey, if you're willing to learn, I'm willing to teach you. And they made the game.
So the game... GTA 6 is delayed to May 2026, so adjust your schedules accordingly, because I know that there's going to be a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I'm going to take some time off, going to play the crap out of this game. I hope it's a banger for you guys. I'm not super interested. It is what it is.
I mean, I'm interested in playing it day one, but it's not coming to PC, so, we'll have to wait a year anyways for that. At least right now. There's some rumors that people are going around saying, oh, they're delaying it a year because they're getting it ready for PC. No, they're not. I can almost guarantee you that they have a contract with PlayStation. PlayStation is paying them a lot of money to drop this game on PS exclusively.
No. Because if it was a PlayStation thing, it would have been for them not to drop it on Xbox, because that's usually what PlayStation does. If they're doing stuff, they don't even care about PC. They just don't want it on the other platform.
Yeah, but I don't think it's
usually
coming.
the way that it goes.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's only coming to PlayStation. I don't even know if it's coming to Xbox first. Is it?
What?
I saw a tweet about
no
this.
Way.
Don't tell me. Don't take my word for the absolute gospel. I just saw a tweet about this where someone said it's a PlayStation exclusive for the first year.
Well, its release date for PS5 and Xbox Series X and S.
Oh, so it is going to Xbox Series S.
Like it says here May 26th, and then it says PS5, and then Xbox Series X and S. Now, PlayStation might be giving the money because...
Ignore what I said.
They might be giving the money because this, it says at the end of the trailer, captured on PS5.
Yeah.
So they might be giving the money for that. They'd be like, oh, yeah, just showcase the trailer, captured footage from our PlayStation 5, whatever. That might have been a thing.
I mean, the tweet was saying... The tweet was saying... something about Xbox is dead. Even GTA is only going on to PlayStation for the first year. PC guys will have to wait.
That's just like usual fucking console tribalism bullshit. And people who engage in it are fucking disingenuous scumbags.
There's an argument.
Fuck those people,
I do apologize for just not fact checking that. But when it comes to GTA, I don't care enough about the game that I'm gonna fact check every single thing I see online about it. So thank you, Rurikon, for fact checking there. I personally, I think the reason it's not coming to PC from day one is the same reason Rockstar never brings their games to PC day one. It is harder to optimize PC games. Just as simple as that. So make sure that your game is hyper optimized for the console, and then once it's out on console, you have as much time as you need to really focus and hone in on fixing it for PC. So I don't really mind it. It's fine. I wish that it wasn't the case. But talking about Xbox and the sort of, now we'll get to that. We'll get to the death of Xbox in a minute, because there's definitely some stuff that we need to talk about when it comes to Microsoft.
It's gonna die.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Obviously, we don't know yet what the pricing is going to be for GTA 6.
Yes, we do. Oh no, it's 100%. It's $100. It's gonna be $100.
It might be more, actually.
It's good. Yeah, it might grow. And, by the time we get there, it might be 150 at the rate these prices are going up, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it might be more. That's why I said we don't know yet. They haven't officially said what the price is yet.
I think tabletop Warhammer is going to become cheaper than gaming.
What would happen if they actually decided to drop the game at $60? Wouldn't that just be a kick in the nuts for AAA, bro? Because all these AAA companies are waiting for this game, right?
They could do the funniest thing right now. And just be like, actually, it's $60.
Yeah, there you go, guys. Although, it should be mentioned, the rumored budget for this game is $2 billion.
$2 billion. That seems like a very responsible budget. Doesn't that just ooze out responsible?
Well, if it was any other company, I would be like, what the hell are you playing at? But it's Rockstar. Their GTA 5
It's in the name.
Dude.
Rockstar.
Yeah. But GTA 5 made $1 billion a year on its own, right? For Rockstar. So clearly Rockstar, they're going all in, because the problem is, if this game launches and it doesn't wow players, right? So players are having fun, but they're not having as much fun as they did in GTA 5. You might end up with a huge problem, because you've spent $2 billion and you're not making that money back. I don't think that will happen, but the more you spend on a game, the bigger the gamble on will this game actually be successful, and the more, shall we say, well, the more relative success becomes, because at 250 mil, selling 10 million copies of your game is wildly successful. At 2 billion, 10 million copies is not successful. Like
they're not going to cut it.
No, no,
you're going to need way more sales.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll
have to see what state the industry is in by the time we get there. Yeah.
Plus, you have a game called Mind's Eye. I don't know if you saw that, which is from another studio. They're not a small studio whatsoever, but they are Rockstar veterans that left Rockstar and started their own studio, and they're working with another big sort of publisher. They're making a game, also single player, like GTA. Also, same sort of vibe, right? A big city, open world, that sort of thing. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. The videos leaked a couple of days ago of gameplay of the game. It still looks very rough, but it is leaked, so it wasn't even supposed to be out. But okay, so GTA 6 trailer dropped, didn't move either of us that much. It's delayed. We don't know what the pricing is going to be. But, Rurikon, I have good news for you. Did you know that the reason Dragon Age the Veilguard failed isn't because...
Now, wait a minute.
What?
Now, wait a fucking... so, how is it that you come over to me, right, and you're telling me, Rurikon, I have good news for you, and then the next words out of your mouth is fucking Dragon Age the Veilguard?
Well, that's good news. We're talking about Dragon Age.
I've been scammed.
No,
I feel scammed, bro. I want my money back.
You're gonna love this, because it's going to explain the failure of Dragon Age the Veilguard like you've never heard it before. And this is from one of the producers who actually worked on Dragon Age the Veilguard until he left.
I have experience with this guy. I have experience with this guy from Anthem. So
yeah, same guy. So according to him, Dragon Age the Veilguard didn't fail because it tried to push modern politics into a game that doesn't belong there. It didn't fail because of absolute terrible art direction choices. It didn't fail because of excruciatingly bad writing. It also didn't fail because, it wasn't what people wanted. No, it failed because of EA. And because EA kept pushing the team that made the game onto Mass Effect Andromeda and then onto Anthem. And when Anthem launched in 2019, they just couldn't possibly fix the game in the next 4 years. That was just a bridge too far for them.
I don't necessarily disagree with Mark Dara. I don't agree with what you said at the very beginning, which is this game failed because of the DI that was ham-fisted in there. Like, that wasn't good. But I think it failed because of the other things that you said. The writing,
I personally,
art style.
You see, the thing is, when people say...
I know. We've talked about it. We've disagreed on this enough.
Let me just ask something. How many times does the experiment need to repeat itself with the outcome being exactly the same every single time before people admit that, okay, apparently this politics stuff does actually ruin games a little? Because we have the examples, right? Game after game that comes out that goes hyper political, that fails, and still there's people that go, "Well, that's not because of politics." And it's like, well, I have all of these examples of games going political, failing.
What I'm saying is that it doesn't help. It didn't help it, and I wasn't defending it.
Okay.
Like, I think it was bad. The thing that they did with Tosh and all of that stuff. Yeah, I think it was bad. It was very poorly written. I think it's actually bad for the people it's trying to represent. But what I'm saying is the reason it failed is because the writing was dog shit, like you said. Yes, to me, that's why it failed. But the whole thing about him saying that one of the reasons why it failed is because EA shifted stuff around too much and moved people from the team to team. I don't necessarily disagree with his assessment.
No.
Because one of the things that I've always pointed out, in the case of Anthem specifically, is that the reason why Anthem failed is because of leadership. Leadership was terribly inefficient because the actual team that built what we've played of Anthem built it in 18 months. This was like in a Jason Schreier article back in the day that I remember looking over. It was 18 months of actual development. All of the other stuff was like, creating the assets and doing all of that stuff and art stuff and whatnot. But like the actual core gameplay loop of Anthem was developed in 18 months, which to me is like, that's fucking impressive. Yeah. So like you've got some really talented developers in there because they nailed the feeling of flying, shooting, explosions, all this. They nailed all of that.
Yeah.
But then the leadership didn't know how to take advantage of it and just kept pushing and prodding them in all of these different directions. Like, oh yeah, let's make a dungeon where people can't fly at the start. It's like, our whole game is about flying. Are you stupid?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with you? You're dumb. Like, your head doesn't work. It's not screwed on right. Like, what the fuck? But, they've done terrible mistakes like that. But to me, it's always been a leadership thing. So yeah, them shifting people around and not respecting the IP and wanting fucking Dragon Age to be a live service thing was also really stupid. And funnily enough, I think in that Mark Derry interview, it's mentioned that the reason they even shifted it into a live service thing was because that would allow them to take the project back to the drawing board and take people away and put them in other teams. And I'm just like, bro, the amount of mismanagement these people have done with BioWare is nothing short of downright criminal at this point. It's crazy.
I will just say that point that Mark Dara made there was just his thinking, right? So it was his speculation on why they wanted to make it a live service game. I should just add that because there might be people who go, wait, it's not confirmed. I have no problem with anything he said. I reacted to his video. And I have no problem with anything he said until the point where he goes, that's why Dragon Age the Veilguard failed. That's why it didn't perform as well. Because his entire video, while he never outright states it, the video is a defense of Dragon Age the Veilguard. And my point at the end of the video was just, Anthem launched in 2019. From 2019 to the moment the game launches, you have just over 4 years. Entire games are made in 4 years. You're telling me you couldn't hack it? No, the game failed because you had developers that didn't know what they were doing. You had people who had no idea what they wanted to do, and we saw it. Corinne Bosch, the leader of Dragon Age the Veilguard, the second that game came out, she upped and left the company.
Because it was so successful.
It was like, who cares, right? I'm done here, boys. Thank you very much. Peace out.
I've set my team up for success.
Yeah, and then he goes to D&D, which is, also apparently doing things. We don't know, because it seems like Larian isn't working with D&D again, or with Wizards of the Coast, and now maybe Wizards of the Coast wants to get their own studio going. But it just shows you how Corinne doesn't even care about this IP in any way, shape, or form. This was just a stepping stone to getting somewhere else where they can be paid a hell of a lot more money for basically destroying whatever the hell that studio does next. Because there are too many people in this industry who don't actually give a crap. They're just there to reach the next stepping stone, to reach the next platform, and to try and rise in the ranks that way and become, special in some way, shape, or form, because no one actually gives a crap. Fundamentally, that's why it failed, not because of leadership. I'm not suggesting that leadership was good, right? And leadership most definitely didn't help, but I refuse to believe, and this is the thing that pisses me off, no one in the games industry will ever take responsibility for their failures. Every single time a game fails, everyone gets blamed, except the developers looking at themselves and going, well, we probably could have done this better. Yeah, it's either the gamers.
It was the gamers, TM.
Yeah, it's the gamers with all caps, the chuds, the white supremacist bigots, or it was review bombing. It's just funny how no good games ever get review bombed. I don't know how that works, but and even
Monster Hunter World Iceborne got review bombed.
Yeah, but even when people review bomb a game, it's oftentimes for a specific reason, and if the game is good enough, it immediately bounces back, right? As soon as they fix whatever people are upset about, it bounces back. It's just funny how that never happens with these super bad political activist games. But, it's the review bombing that's killing the game, or some nonsense like that. But it's never the developers. They take no ownership over the failings of their games whatsoever. They cannot possibly be blamed for any of it. I don't know. People seemingly loved the fact that there is a 21st century conversation shoehorned into a medieval game. I'm sure the peasants, between suffering and fighting for their lives, were all non-binary and figuring out their gender, but never mind that. That couldn't possibly be the reason for its failings. I'm sick and tired of it. And Mark Dora, I have sort of a love-hate relationship with the guy, because sometimes he says things that I go, oh, that's pretty interesting. And other times he says things like this, where I go, wow, you're really dumb, actually. But hey, it is what it is. EA doing EA stuff, I guess. No, yep. We'll leave the EA conversation when we get to the other conversation we have to do there. Yeah, it's an interesting talk. Nevertheless, you guys can go check it out. Go to Mark Dora's channel, go watch it. He sometimes genuinely does have some really good videos with some cool insights into some of the stuff that happens behind the scenes and so on. But be warned, sometimes he has some bollocks videos as well, where he just says things and you go, wait, what? That's not how that works. But anyways, Rurikon, you listened to the preview of Death Stranding.
Yeah.
Can you tell us?
Skillup got to go hang out with Kojima over in Japan. He got to play the game for like 4 days, which is kind of like unusual for preview events to be that long.
Yeah, you usually get a couple of hours.
You get a couple of hours with the game, and then they kick you out. That's usually how that goes. Sometimes they'll buy you dinner, but he went over to Japan. He got to play the game. He and there's a bunch of other mainstream media folk and whatnot, and previews have been coming out throughout this week. And the interesting thing is they got to play about 30 hours of the game. And according to Kojima, that is roughly equal to 1/3 of the game, what they have played so far of Death Stranding 2.
So it's about 90-hour game.
No, not 90 hour. Yeah. The thing to me is that's probably like completionist playthrough, I would imagine, like about 100 hours. If you're going to be a completionist, I would imagine that you'll be able to beeline the story a little bit faster if you want to.
Yeah, in Death Stranding 1, you can beeline it not quickly, but relatively quickly. It's when you want to do all of the other stuff. How active the
community is.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on how active the community is.
True.
Yeah.
True.
But the interesting thing about Death Stranding from Skillup's perspective is that there were a lot of people there that didn't like the original. And apparently they like this one. But he also mentions that it's not that different from the original. And I just want to say that whenever people come around to Death Stranding 2 and they're all like glazing Kojima over Death Stranding 2, I just want to point out my review was right all along. And all of you fucking people that made me eat shit sandwiches for years on the original Death Stranding can go kick rocks. All right?
Yep.
No, I liked the original Death Stranding.
I loved it.
Back when it released. It received a bunch of like improvements over the years, which I haven't even seen because I played the base version. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. Now, one of the things that he points out is that this one, number one, there's a change in location very early on.
Okay.
Because the story gets introduced in like Mexico, and then they change it somewhere else, which I'm not going to reveal where it is. SkillUp talks about it in his preview, so you guys can go watch SkillUp's coverage if you want to know more about that. But yeah, there's like a massive change in scenery and whatnot. But in its essence, he says that the game is still very similar, but you get access to more aggressive things right off the bat. So, like weapons and stuff like that. And you'll be able to go take on camps and do the traditional open worldy things.
Yeah, the first one doesn't give you access to weapons until quite late, actually, when you finally
much
can
later.
actually start
Like
fighting
I remember for a good long while, the way that I would be tackling enemies would be like I would steal their trucks and then run them over.
Yeah. Because it was one of the easier ways to kill
I'd be
them.
running around, boom. It was boom. Oh, look, another one, boom. It's like, oh, that's terrible. I feel so bad. Boom. Oh, no. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, in the beginning
I'm
sneak.
a pacifist, I swear.
In the beginning you have sneak. Or like very good parry. Well, not very good parrying, because the parrying system isn't that hard in the game, but you have to hit the parry so that you can actually take out the enemies in one, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so this one's going to let you do that kind of like much earlier than the previous one. And so I guess that increases the level of action, and that is probably why people are happier, because they can go around being trigger happy, doing things a little bit faster. Yeah. But to me, the essence of the game was never about that. So I'm guessing what Kojima is doing is he's able to kind of like disguise what the essence of the game is long enough so that people get invested and they end up enjoying the other part that we all kind of like, which is, oh, let me optimize the route and do the bridges and the things and all of that. So it's kind of like, it's the same overall mechanics, according to what SkillUp is saying.
Yeah.
And it seems like people are overwhelmingly positive about it. Now, one of the things that he also brought up, which I think is very important, is that the beginning of the original Death Stranding had a lot of like cutscenes and stuff like that. It was very heavy into cutscenes. Yeah. Whereas the beginning of this game is like, no, you're in the action right from the get-go and you're doing stuff, you're in control. And I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because I like the gameplay of it. So I'm curious about it. I don't know what my schedule is going to be looking like in June. We'll have to see, because obviously I'm still going to be doing Night Rain and stuff like that. But I might be checking it out.
Yeah. I will definitely check it out. I think this is, again, one of those games that first comes to console and will only come to PC later.
No, this one has day and date, I'm pretty sure.
Is it going straight to PC as well? Because his first one didn't come straight
I think to PC. So. Yeah, June 26, 2025.
Is it PC, everything on the same day?
I'm pretty sure, like, Google is saying yes.
Because that would be interesting, because Hideo Kojima, generally speaking, launches to console first.
I'm looking it up. I'm pretty sure. Like, is there's probably like a new trailer or something that I can check out. Let me see. That's Stranding 2 trailer, because I seem to remember last time that they've announced it.
So here it is. Hideo Kojima explains logic behind Death Stranding 2's release date. According to this, but that apparently wasn't an option this time around, possibly because Ghost of Yotei was later confirmed to be targeting in early October 2025. The game is expected to eventually make its way to PC as well.
Oh, so it's not? I thought it was. Huh, interesting.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, apparently the game isn't, but that's sort of bog standard for Hideo Kojima. He does have a good relationship with console, specifically with... Actually, it will launch as a PS5 exclusive.
Yeah, I think it might be because Death Stranding is on the same engine as Horizon Zero Dawn, which is the Decima engine. So yeah, you are right. It's not coming to PC. For some reason, I had this idea that this one was coming day and date. So I'm guessing it's PS5 exclusive first.
It says here that it is a PS5 exclusive. and it'll eventually make its way to to PC. Which, you know, I hate the exclusivity thing, but at the same time, if 2 is anything like 1, it's gonna be worth the wait. Because 1 was fantastic. I really loved it. And if any developers want some tips on how to make a political video game, go learn from Mr. Kojima. You can make political video games, but you have to know how to do it. And Kojima apparently just doesn't miss. I don't know how he does it, but he is so good at it that it just works. Speaking of it just works, shall we shift to a game that both you and I at one point in time played quite a lot of? We even had a podcast way back in the day about this game.
Yeah.
Before we both moved on to greener pastures.
Man, I miss that video game. I miss that video game a lot. You know, I managed never to really play what's it called? The War Within, whatever.
Yeah.
Which, let me just tell you, if I didn't play The War Within, it means that I'm absolutely healed from my World of Warcraft addiction, because the one game that has dwarves as like their main theme, and you would get to play with Bran Bronzebeard as your companion, which is probably my favorite World of Warcraft character, and I didn't play that, probably means my WoW addiction has been completely cured, and I'm never going to end up playing World of Warcraft unless things significantly change.
But Huracan, why? I mean, they're just now bringing out a new thing, you know, where you can literally now play the game by just pressing one button.
Now, there is a penalty to that.
Yeah, the penalty is what?
You do suffer
20% damage.
I don't know. There's
like that.
No, it's not damage reduction. It's an increase on your global cooldown. So it increases your global cooldown by 0.2 seconds or whatever it is.
Yeah, but that will be a damage reduction. Because you're...
Yeah, it's a damage reduction. Yeah. It's going to be a significant damage reduction. But the point that we're talking about here, guys, is so World of Warcraft is, for starters, this is 2 things. It's not just a one-button rotation. So it is called it's
an accessibility
rotation
feature.
Assist. It's a rotation assist. So what that does is there's going to be a button, and apparently there was an add-on that did this. So there's going to be a button that just shows you, hey, here's what the next skill is that you should be pressing. And so that button works in real time. There's no cooldown penalty to just have that show you what you should be casting next. But then they also have the rotation helper, which is going to be the button where you can actually just press it and it presses the next thing. So literally you can play World of Warcraft by just pressing one button and it will do your optimal rotation. Now, as to how optimal it's going to be, I've seen that it varies wildly because, you know, obviously Blizzard doesn't even know their own rotations. Players know their rotations better than the people that code the damn things, which is, you know, it's kind of shameful, really, if you're somebody that is working on this. But people have already tested it on PTR, and it's, like, not very good. But it's better than people trying to figure out what their rotation is and trying to go, like, pressing buttons and just doing everything wrong. That thing will just work. And it will just get you to, like, deal adequate damage to do world quests and maybe heroic dungeons and shit like that. Yeah. But if you're talking about Mythic Plus and Mythic rating and even heroic rating, I think you're going to struggle using just one button rotation because your DPS is going to fall short, I would imagine. Yeah. But ultimately, the reason why I think that this is a bad thing, and I'm sure that you're going to also... have some things to say about this.
What?
The reason why I think this is a bad thing...
I never say bad things about Blizzard and World of Warcraft. What?
Is because I think that when it comes to video games, players should be looking at improving themselves. I think that's kind of like the point. You get better, you become more experienced, you know how to use your abilities and all of that stuff. Yeah. Now, in the case of World of Warcraft, it is disgustingly bloated. Okay, you're talking about, like, you know, those bloaters in Left 4 Dead, like you clumple 10 of them together and then you get like the amount of bloat that you have in World of Warcraft. Like there's bloat on top of bloat on top of bloat, depending on when your class last got its revision. Yeah. And sometimes your class gets its revision and it gets even worse in terms of bloat. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Yeah. So because of that bloat, Blizzard's like, we have to teach people how to use 20 fucking skills, and when it's appropriate for them to use each of these skills, when in reality, you could just have people use 5 skills and know when to press the fucking buttons, or 6 skills, or 10 skills, whatever. But then they would have to know when to press the buttons. But Blizzard's like, nah, just let them use like 20 fucking skills and figure it out and whatever, and it gets a fucking mess. It's a big fucking mess. Yeah. So it would have been better for them to just revise the way that each talent system works and actually make it in a way that it makes sense so that players can learn how to play those talents.
Yeah.
Simplifying some things. Yes, some people say, oh, I don't want the dumbing down, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, sure, you don't want it dumbed down, but you want, at a certain point, you want it to be accessible to people. And it's going to be very hard to bring in new players if they can't even figure out like, oh, there's 50 fucking abilities. And the other thing is, because Blizzard now just mostly skips over the leveling process, because you level so fucking fast, you don't have time to learn your class, because it's going to be like, oh, you leveled up. Guess what? 5 new abilities. Like, wait, what the fuck? Oh yeah, also you leveled up 5 levels all of a sudden because you did this thing that speeds you up, and you're boosting. You're almost at the end game, bro. Keep going.
Yeah.
So all of these problems create this gross bloat that they can't fix.
Yeah.
Now, the rotation assist thing is not really going to help people, because it's just going to tell them, you should press this button. But what people need to understand is, why? Why am I pressing this button at this particular time?
Yeah.
Well, because there's 3 enemies and you need to do AoE, so you press this button, and now your next 3 attacks deal AoE damage. That's why you're pressing this button. Things like this are important.
Yeah.
But no, instead of that, Blizzard's like, no, just press this button. It's like, I pressed the button. Hey, look, I'm so smart.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into learning rotations of your classes and all of this stuff, right? It should be simplified to an extent, but at the same time, the leveling experience should also be made longer so that you have time to get used to the intricacies of the rotation of your character and all that. There's a ton of steps that need to be done. But rather than doing that, Blizzard's just like, no, you're just going to make a 1-button thing, and now you press your 1 button and Bob's your uncle, which is going to take a ton of depth away from the game. It's just bad all around. But before we get to the next topics, tell me your take on that.
I agree with everything you just said there. And the way I'll frame it is just, it's once again Blizzard providing a band-aid fix because they either lack the skill set or the will to fix the disease. The problem is that you have way too much going on in this game, with a lot of the things not necessarily even having to be there. When people tell me, oh, I love the complexity of the game, bro, there are games with literally 4 max skills that are a million times more complex than World of Warcraft, because of how the skills interact with each other and the way in which those skills are used and your understanding of how those skills should be used. So the idea that, 20 buttons makes it complex, no, it doesn't.
No, it makes it boring.
Yeah, just because I'm pressing this button that does 2 damage, but then it actually boosts this other thing's damage, doesn't mean that that's complex. Just knowing what order to push buttons in is not a complexity thing. A complexity thing would be when classes start to synergize off of one another, when your abilities synergize in very specific ways, in very specific arenas. This would be complexity. The original World of Warcraft had complexity in terms of the world design and how the enemies had to be approached. And you couldn't just pull. You had to figure out, what am I pulling and why am I pulling it, right?
Exactly. Like back in the Burning Crusade, which is when I really started doing like hard dungeons and raids and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Tanking wasn't hard because you had a complex rotation. Tanking was hard because you were managing an entire group's worth of cooldowns. You were like, okay, so moon is for sleeping, triangle is for sapping, or I think actually purple was for sapping. Skull is your first target, cross is your second target. So you would mark all of these monsters and you'd be managing the whole group. So tanking was almost like a light real-time strategy game where you were kind of like figuring out all of these things that you had. And it was way more fun.
Yeah.
It was way more fun than what it is now, where tanking is just like, nah, bro, I'm going to pull fucking 3 packs and good luck, healer. And have a good time.
And the interesting thing was also tanking wasn't just about hitting your cooldowns at the right time, because staying alive was rarely the biggest issue. The biggest issue was actually keeping threat on everything.
Keeping threat, yes.
Because if someone is attacking a little bit too hard, you have to manage your taunt, because taunt has a cooldown. So you don't want to be taunting too quickly if you can just do a sundered strike.
The memories.
But that's so the complexity was derived
and keeping
from
up 3 sunders. We used to have to keep up 3 sunders on the main target as well. Manage that, dude.
You know, warlocks had to manage their curses, because some curses would increase damage on certain things, some things would slow. Mages had to keep up with combustion and what combustion is doing.
Actually, you know what this conversation is making me realize?
Yeah.
You have more buttons now, but you had more complexity back then with less buttons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because the complexity was baked into the game. The classes were kept relatively simple because the game itself was relatively complex. What mobs could do, what bosses could do, it was just because what's happened in recent years is Blizzard have gone full complexity on classes, which isn't really complex, it's just extra buttons. But then they've also tried to make bosses more complex. And that's really the root cause of the problem.
Imagine this. Back in the day, you press this one button and you deal 50 damage, but you have to pay attention to everything that is happening around you.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like you don't have to pay as much attention to what's happening around you, but you need to press 10 buttons to deal the same 50 damage. And it's like, I think the older game was more fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's the success of the older game proves that people were having a lot more fun back then, because it genuinely still had that RPG experience. I recently started playing Oblivion a little, and it's fantastic to see how old games operated, where it's difficult in the beginning. You don't have a lot of skills. You have basically your sword and your shield, and that's it. And you have to figure out how to survive. You have to cheese a lot of stuff because you can't just gung-ho run in there and kill everything. So you get that sort of progression of power, that feeling of progress. The biggest issue I have with the single button is that it will become the norm for a lot of people, and then those people will start screaming about damage output because they'll feel like, I can't play my game. Because here's the thing.
Buff my class.
Here's the thing. Once someone gets used to a single button press, they're not going to be able to switch over to multi-button.
Oh no, there's no way.
The other problem is, even if you're just talking about the rotation helper, right? So not the button, but just the thing that shows you what's coming next and what you should be pressing. The rotation assist. What that ends up doing is, once you take that button away, they don't know how to play it.
You can't take it away.
Yeah, you can never take that button away again.
That's one of those features that you can't take away, which is ultimately going to lead to a bunch of players never really learning how to play their class, which one might argue is one of the main problems in World of Warcraft right now.
I mean,
and it's actually one of the reasons why a lot of people just don't play it, because they're just like, oh, it's too fucking annoying to figure out how to play this class or whatever.
I find well, to be fair, it's just another one of those symptoms of the AAA industry. The people with actual talent that used to make games left. They did what the guy from Clair Obscur did. They got bored of waiting to try and get approval for things that they want to do, and they left and started making their own shit. Because why would I get stuck here if I can just do my own stuff? I don't have to do this. And now, the way technology is going, guys, I don't think it's going to be long before we start to see actual AA MMOs. Up until now, MMOs have been sort of exclusively AAA, or at least someone with deep pockets, because they're very expensive to make. But I think we're getting close to a point where you're going to be able to make an MMO with 60, 70 people. And once we get there, AAA's dead. Like the AAA MMO window, because you're going to get MMOs with actual, like, innovative content, not just the same slop sort of rehashed a million times over. So I actually don't think that there's anything good about the one button rotation.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything good there either. The thing that I was going to say that there are some good news is because I don't know if you watched the whole video because they had this Wowcast thing, but in that Wowcast they also talk about add-ons and the add-on philosophy add-on philosophy that Blizzard is trying to tackle moving forward.
Yeah.
And it is something that you and I also talked about often, and it seems like they're finally going to be doing it. And that is at certain points in the video, Ian actually talks about they want to start to cut down on the amount of information that they give to certain add-ons. They want to start cutting down on the combat assist add-ons that basically solve gameplay mechanics.
Yeah.
And they're going to they're going to start cutting those out. So their idea is they want to be able to raid without using all of the add-ons, and they don't want people to have to install weak auras at all. And weak auras might even be going the way of the dodo, which that is fucking massive and a huge W. Because weak auras are fucking garbage. And I know that I can't wait because I know that some people in our community are definitely going to come into the comment section and be like, actually, weak auras are real good. They're going to try to make all those bullshit arguments. And for them, all I have to say is, fuck you. I don't give a fuck about what you have to say about your fucking weak auras is garbage.
Violence.
It's garbage. Yes, it is garbage. It's bad. It's fucking bad. And it teaches people bad habits.
Yeah.
Like actually looking at the fucking boss rather than waiting for something to come in, blaring with fucking air horns. Like,
yeah,
it's time for you to do this. It's time for this thing. And they actually have to do things like telegraph abilities properly. Like, I don't know if it was Limit Max or Dratnos brought up, or it might have even been Ian, that apparently you go look at Mythic Plus runs on Twitch now, and people have like incoming AoE circle, incoming AoE cone, frontal, and it's like, really?
Yeah.
That's the level of communication that Blizzard is doing with their animations that people need fucking audio tells of what the fuck's about to happen so that they can use their abilities properly?
But this is a game.
Bro.
This is a game that race to the bottom, right?
It's the race, and that's the thing that they want to get rid of. Yeah. They don't want to do this arms race with the add-ons, which to me, that is actually a good thing. That is a very good thing.
It is a good thing.
We have to talk about the bad things, like the one button. I think it's just universally bad. It's a terrible idea. It's going to make worse players. It's something that they can't get rid of once they implement it. I don't think that there's a single there is one single saving grace, which is somebody who's handicapped. They can only press one button. I get it, but I still think that overall it's going to be a net negative for pretty much everybody else that is involved with the game.
Yeah.
On the other side, the stuff that they want to change in terms of the add-on policies and all of that stuff, I see that as a W. But at the same time, I'm also going to make a statement that a lot of people are probably might have some contention about, but I'm going to say it anyways because I genuinely believe it. You ain't got the balls, Ian.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say. You ain't got the balls. You ain't got the stones to not send that information to the add-ons. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say that Blizzard doesn't have the balls to do that. They're saying they're going to do it. They're saying that, oh yeah, we're going to change. It's going to be different. Trust us. But I'm going to say you ain't got the balls.
I will say this because I have this unique talent to make anything positive negative. It's a talent you get once you become a grifter.
It's like the Midas touch, except you turn everything into shit.
Everything into shit. Once, or immediately, actually. 8 years too late. Like, we were talking about this before Legion even came out. We were like, bro, these add-ons are insane.
Big fucking true. 8 years too late.
This is always Blizzard, bro. Like, how long did people say, dude, we don't think we like Titan forging and War forging? And Blizzard's like, no, it's great. It's brilliant.
You love it.
And we were like, but
you don't understand.
Yeah, we really don't like this. This really makes the game less fun.
Shut up and play the video game.
More fun, actually. You just don't understand it.
Because it's random.
What's super cool is when Ian read questions during their Q&A, people saying, I hate Titan Forging, Warforging. And he's like, no, you just, maybe we'll just explain it. And then he explains Titan Forging, Warforging. And it's like, bro, like, your explanation doesn't make it better. Because it's not that we hate this because we don't understand it. Why is my loot so random the whole time? We fully understand why that is. We hate that is that, right? And this is the same thing. How long have we been saying, dude, add-ons have gotten out of control. This is nonsense. Please fix this. And Blizzard's just like,
stop.
Guys, we need representation for people in wheelchairs. Can we put Catcore in a purple wheelchair? Would that actually be a thing that works? And all this other nonsense. And finally they go, you know what? Last night I went to bed and had this dream. I think this is exactly how it went when Ian was talking to him. I had this dream and I thought to myself, you know what? There's too many add-ons in this game. We should cut down on these add-ons. Why didn't players ever tell us that we should cut down on add-ons?
If only the players have said something, we could have known.
It's genuinely, that's the feeling I get from Blizzard, is they have to come up, they have to have the epiphany themselves. God. It's genuinely like that old joke where they say in a marriage, a woman needs to learn how to make a man think that it was his idea, otherwise it will never actually happen. That's the thing with Blizzard. You have to make them think that it's their idea, otherwise they will never do it.
Need to get Leonardo DiCaprio and Jason Gordon-Levitt to put Inception ideas into the minds of Blizzard so that they think it was their idea from the beginning. Yeah, I think that's right.
It is just so, because the game has become just a nightmare to play. And, well, to be fair, even if they fixed all of this, I still wouldn't be back because I think Blizzard is just creatively bankrupt at this point.
I think that you'd need to get rid of the WoW token. Get rid of the WoW token, then I'd be like, okay,
for me,
now we can talk.
For me, the WoW token was never the reason I left. I left because the game became way too political, Blizzard became way too left-wing, and I stopped having fun in World of Warcraft from a gameplay perspective at the end of Legion. So for me, once the story fell off, it was like, well, why am I playing?
You were trying to sell me on the War Within for the longest time.
Yeah, because the story was actually good. Don't get me wrong. I even said that in my video where I announced that I'm moving away from WoW. The story of the War Within was actually good. It was political as hell, but you could at least see that Chris Mason, like, for example, Hideo Kojima, does have talent. And he was trying to sort of include all of these political elements, but at least not break the fourth wall. At least not make it that obvious that you're preaching how Republicans are bad and men are bad and all the rest of it. So at least from that end, the story was pretty good. What just ended up happening is the thing that I was most hyped for, Delves. Once you do it for a couple of weeks, you start to realize, wait, this isn't actually new. Wait, this isn't actually a fantastic new game development. It's just a single-player dungeon.
That's what I expected them to eventually become, which is why I was like,
yeah, it's literally a single-player dungeon, and the only reason you do it is for the vault. Just so that you can get gear in the vault. The most boring, bland, repetitive gameplay, so you can get the vault to go higher. At this point, I'm convinced that WoW players are just addicts. They're like cocaine or heroin addicts. They'll take anything Blizzard releases.
I can't believe
just so they can shoot it up.
I can't believe that there are actually people that vehemently defend the vault. I'm just like, bro.
But this is why
you're beyond the pale. It's over for you. You're cooked.
It's why I think they're addicted. Remember, the vault was designed to be addictive. You have a list of stuff that you have to complete, and then you get a reward, a cookie, at the end of it, right? And the cookie makes a bunch of bells and whistles when you click on it. It is a bit of a slot machine, because at the moment that you open it, you don't know what is inside.
What do you mean a bit? It is a slot machine, not a bit of a it is a fucking slot machine.
Yeah, but you do get to choose your reward, right? So it's meant to get people addicted. And the people that love it, they love it because they're addicted to it. They cannot get enough of that.
I would recommend the people that like the Great Vault never go anywhere near a casino because they're going to be fucking fleeced alive. They're going to come out of there with no clothes.
Yeah.
They're going to gamble away their fucking pants.
At this point, if Blizzard really wants to start printing money, they should sell on the cash shop a reroll coin for the vault. So you can literally buy for $5 a reroll, which allows you to reroll everything inside your vault and maybe get some better rewards on the
wouldn't put it past them.
Dude, hey, I could go work for the monetization department. I can think of a lot of bullshit ways to fleece WoW players.
And then I can call you a fucking scumbag.
Dude, I will take that gladly. I will literally go online and say, I am selling crack to crack addicts. And I am making bank as a result of it. These morons don't even know.
And business is a booming.
All right. So sticking with the Blizzard thing, after probably at this point losing more than half of our community, because they're pissed off about GTA 6, they're pissed off about Death Stranding, now they're pissed off about
pissed off about World of Warcraft.
We're about to piss off all the Blizzard stands even more. Rurikon, what's happening in the world of Diablo 4, that great and glorious game in the ARPG genre? What are they doing now to move the industry forward?
So apparently there has been a collab that they decided to do, and they went with one of the most popular IPs out there, which is Berserk. You should be familiar with it. Guts, big sword, Griffith, like really fucked up gore and shit, like super beloved series. Most people should be familiar with it. And so therefore, obviously, because it is Diablo 4, well-established IP, people used to like that IP, and, they're going to do justice to this collaboration, right? Like, what would you expect from something like this? Like maybe some thematic dungeon, some story content, right, where they explore the nature of guts and the world of Sanctuary and all of that, and how guts could come in there, start killing demons, all of that stuff, right? Pretty cool collab, right? So much potential for them doing like so many cool things. So what do you think they did, Akalon? What do you think that Blizzard did?
Oh, Blizzard. I thought you asked like what I would do. What Blizzard did is probably the cheapest.
So what would you do?
I would actually include that as a playable character, maybe for a limited time, but maybe as a permanent playable character, or at least a class that you can play that's sort of based on the character. I mean, like a storyline, like a beautiful storyline, maybe like a DLC event almost, because you just gained access to so much more sort of lore that you can sort of connect to the Diablo 4 universe. But if you're asking me what Blizzard did, I'm going to go...
No, wait, before we go there, you just reminded me of something. So you know that a couple of years ago, when Monster Hunter World came out, they did a collab with another beloved IP. Not sure if you're familiar with this.
No.
This collab was with Witcher 3.
Ooh.
So Monster Hunter World had a collab. Yeah, had a collab with The Witcher 3. Mm-hmm. Now, knowing what you know about Monster Hunter, you would assume like, oh, so they brought over like a monster, and then, you go and you hunt the monster like you usually do in Monster Hunter, and you get like themed gear from Geralt, and Bob's your uncle, right?
Yeah.
That'd be like the extent of it. No. They did this whole quest line with it, where you get to play as Geralt for a bit. Wow. You actually play as Geralt. They went and got the voice actor for Geralt to voice act the fucking thing. You know how Geralt has that thing that he doesn't like portals?
Yeah.
That's how he gets into the world of Monster. It's an actual story thing that happens. Geralt shows up in a portal. I mean, actually, the first thing that shows up is like one of those little monsters. I forget what their name is. Like those little dudes. That, one of the nasty, like smaller monsters shows up, and your palico finds him. And then like you both like get together and try to figure out what's going on with. Oh, it's a necker. That's the name of the monster. It's a little necker. So your palico finds a necker, and then your hunter like gets called in to see, hey, what's this creature? We don't know where it came from and all of that stuff. And as you are meeting with the guild and trying to figure out what to do, Geralt shows up from a portal, and he's like, oh, that's a necker. And, you know, with the actual voice of Geralt, and like, and then there's this mission that you go on with Geralt, which is different from anything that Monster Hunter has ever done. Like, there's dialogue choices, there's actual different outcomes that the quest can have.
Wow.
And there's all of these different things. Like, you can play that quest multiple times and have like slightly different outcomes. Now, there is one outcome that's like the most optimal one, but ultimately the idea is that you go with Geralt and you help out this monster, because Geralt is not evil. He doesn't just kill monsters for the sake of it. Usually he tries to solve things, right? So you actually save a monster from Monster Hunter, and then the monster comes and helps you fight a Leshen.
Wow.
And you fight a Leshen in Monster Hunter as Geralt.
That's so cool,
okay?
Actually.
And by the way, all of the cosmetics from this quest that you get, which you, as you can imagine, you get just straight up Geralt skin. You can, from that moment onwards, you can play Monster Hunter as if you were Geralt. You have like your sword. It's the sword and shield moveset, except instead of having a shield, because Geralt doesn't use a shield, they give you like the Quen sign whenever you block.
Oh, cool, yeah.
So Geralt does the Quen sign and he blocks like a sword and shield, right? And he only uses the silver sword because everything in this world is a monster, right? So he only uses the silver sword. But yeah, like that whole thing. They also give you the Ignis sign, which becomes just like a usable item in the game, and your character just shoots out flame. Doesn't have that much effect on regular monsters, but it's a little thing that you can do, and it does an emote and it shoots a, just a fun little thing. Deals like a little bit of damage, but like negligible. However, in the Leshen fight, it's very meaningful because it has like specific interactions that you can do with it, right?
Yeah.
And so, and then you get all these cosmetics, and then in Iceborne, I think they doubled down. They added an additional quest. Then you can get the skin of Ciri for your hunter as well, and then you can play as Ciri. So there's all of these things that they've done, and the players get everything for free. Wow! Like there's no charge, no nothing. This was a title update. You play as a Witcher, do the thing. That's how they did a collab with a beloved IP
from a company that loves their players, honors their players, and knows and
respects the IP.
Yeah, because there's two ways of monetizing your players. The one is physically just monetizing it, so putting it behind a paywall of some kind. The other is to actually make your players buy goods with goodwill. So because it is a transaction at the end of the day. But buying goodwill allows you to do a lot more stuff in the future without having to justify what you're doing. Because the players trust that this is sort of the argument that I made at the beginning with GTA, right? Because of GTA 5, because of Red Dead Redemption 2, there is so much goodwill towards Rockstar that even with their, let's be real, super scummy actions, it's not enough to erase the goodwill, because the goodwill bank continuously gets filled up by Rockstar with phenomenal releases. But anyways, what did Blizzard ultimately end up doing?
So Blizzard, naturally, beloved developer, collabing with a beloved IP like Berserk. Yeah. What sort of effort they put into all of this?
Please.
They made a bunch of fucking skins. That's it. It's a bunch of skins. It's a bunch of fucking skins.
And I'm assuming all cash up.
Of course, they're all cash up skins. You can't earn them in game. There's nothing. And so somebody made the math on this on the Diablo subreddit. This was by Hilltop Hood. And he says, PSA, obtaining all Berserk sets will run you 16,500 platinum.
How many dollars?
Now, translated into actual people currency, for starters, you can't buy 1,600, 500 platinum, because of course you can't, because that wouldn't make sense. So you're going to need to buy the package that comes with 18,500 platinum, which costs $149.99. But the good news is you'll have 2,000 platinum left over that you can't really buy anything with. Isn't that a good thing?
$150.
$150 of cosmetic microtransactions, which, by the way, are class specific. So
you can't even have everything on anything.
No, so like the Barbarian gets the Gut set, the Necromancer gets the Skull Knight set, and the Rogue gets the Hawk of Light and the Struggler, which I'm not super familiar with Berserk. I did start reading the books. I think I was like on the 3rd manga of Berserk, but like I'm assuming the Hawk of Light is basically Griffith's white set, I think. But yeah, Rogues get the Hawk of Light and the Struggler, Necromancers get Skull Knight costume, and the Barbarian gets the Berserker armor. And yeah, 5 sets, each cost. Oh yeah, because then there's also pets and mounts and what's the thing? The saddles, I'm assuming, whatever, mount cosmetics and shit like that. But yeah, those are also things that you can get. But each of the 5 sets costs 2,800 platinum, which is up to 14,000 platinum. Yeah. 1 set costs 2,500 platinum. So yeah, 16,500 platinum to purchase all 6 sets. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is there is no bundle, no discount, and no pricing incentive to buy all of them together. Because of course not. Why make it at least? Why, if you're going to be a disgusting fucking pig, okay? If you're going to be a nasty fucking monetization pig, you might as well be the nastiest motherfucker you can possibly be, okay? You don't want to be just like a cute little pink pig like Babe. No, you want to be a disgusting fucking brown hog rolling in pig shit, you know, with monetization. That's what you actually want to be.
Blizzard not just die at this point. Like, genuinely speaking, this company is so morally bankrupt. I mean, okay, so first and foremost, I'm not a huge fan of this crossover nonsense because even in the times where it's done phenomenally well, there is sort of arguments about the lore that just gets taken advantage of, right? Because these worlds are obviously not connected to one another. And so, you know, why would you even have that? But if you are going to do it, because I do get that it's a wonderful opportunity to maybe get some Witcher fans into Monster Hunter, if you are going to do it justice. You know, actually go above and beyond to try and... But this is sort of the problem with Blizzard. They don't understand why Diablo 4 isn't making money. They don't understand why Diablo 4 isn't actually the premier ARPG. Why Path of Exile 2 is absolutely blowing their junk off at this point, right? They don't understand it. So from their perspective, their game's great. It's just that people aren't really playing it. So if we put a bunch of cosmetics in there from their favorite games, they'll just start playing it finally. And they'll go, oh, man, this is a good game.
Oh, yes. Fantastic. I'm so happy. It's fucking dumb, but whatever.
Yeah, there's just Blizzard being Blizzard, and it doesn't get any worse.
It's a disgusting cash grab, and Kentaro Miura is probably rolling over in his grave being like, what the fuck, bro? Really? Diablo 4? Really?
Yeah, man.
That's what you motherfuckers sold my IP to? Damn, dude, thanks, bro. But, appreciate it.
But it's so clear that this is Microsoft's doing, right? And I know we're going to be talking about Microsoft in 2 seconds here, but it's so clear that this is I'm not saying that Blizzard wouldn't have done something
Blizzard's
like
not
this,
innocent.
Right? No.
Yeah.
The crossover thing is Microsoft's thing. Because you see it now quite heavily in Activision as well, with Call of Duty. Ever since Microsoft acquired Activision and Blizzard, this crossover thing has become massive. And I've spoken to so many people who used to love Call of Duty that are actually now looking forward to Battlefield launching because Call of Duty has become ridiculous.
That'll fix it.
Yeah, well, their issue is just Call of Duty is supposed to be about war. And yet you see people running around, you see Nicki Minaj running around on your screen with a gun.
Perfect.
Right? And now you're going to see Seth Rogen and the Drug Squad running around on your screen. It's like, dude, what the hell am I playing?
Fantastic.
Like, this isn't Fortnite. Fortnite is the one that's quirky. You're supposed to be the one that simulates war.
It's immersion breaking. It's immersion breaking straight up. But
it just ruins the feel of the game. At least with Monster Hunter, it made sense because Geralt is also a monster hunter. So there's a fitting theme between these two things. But when you get to like Seth Rogen now in Call of Duty, it's like, what's the theme? Like, I don't understand how this dude fits into this theme, except for the fact that I would love to see him on the front lines in a war, getting his shit blown off. Outside of that,
Jesus,
I don't see what the theme here is. Yeah, I don't have much time for the guy. I don't have much time for the guy.
Yeah, it's just like I'm not interested in that. I don't want any of that smoke. What the fuck?
No, I don't.
You
I don't
want
have
Seth
time for the guy
Rogen to be
because
blown up in a fucking war zone?
well,
Jesus,
he's the
It's
one
fucked
that
up.
sort of wants to go to war with Republicans and hates all conservatives. So he wants to have a war. I'd be happy to see him on the front lines of that war,
Jesus.
doing his thing, dude. If you want to go for it, you have to go for it all the way, right? But no, that's not me suggesting that he should die. It's just me suggesting he should put his money where his mouth is. And I would actually pay to see that. But speaking of very, very,
Microsoft.
very, very greedy companies. So you guys know that prices and game prices are increasing consistently. The industry appears to be on a new sort of drug where they think the real problem is actually that we're not charging enough for our video games. That's the actual issue here. And Microsoft apparently is leading the charge. Can you elaborate for us a bit?
Nintendo Switch led the charge.
I don't talk about Nintendo
Microsoft's
ever.
like-
Let me just be clear.
Yeah.
I don't care about Nintendo. At this point, Nintendo has proven themselves to be the most disgusting, lazy pieces of crap in the world.
I wouldn't go that far.
They're charging $80 for a game that looks like it was made 20 years ago. I'm sorry.
That doesn't mean that they're lazy.
Dude, we're gonna get to another story here.
It just means
where
they're
Nintendo
charging,
is just
they're charging you a
straight up
fuckload.
suing someone for making a better game than they can make. They're a lazy piece of crap company. Like, that's just it.
I don't agree with Nintendo being lazy. I do agree with Nintendo being greedy, though. And I was just pointing out that Microsoft didn't lead the charge. Nintendo led the charge, and Microsoft instantly started rubbing their hands like, we're going next. We're next, baby.
I think if
you guys blew open the door, we're coming in.
If I can offer my proper thoughts on why I don't include Nintendo in this, I do think Nintendo is a lazy scumbag company, but the reason I don't include Nintendo in leading the charge is Nintendo's ecosystem is closed, right? So I think any company that follows Nintendo's suit is beyond stupid. Nintendo's ecosystem is made up of a bunch of people that will go bankrupt to support Nintendo. So this is very much sort of just the industry once again not understanding how things operate and work.
I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't say that. No,
dude, I would. The amount of people I've seen defending the $80 game, right? And just but they should charge that much. Games, inflation, and all the rest of it. And
there's a lot of fucking dumbasses. That doesn't mean that people that listen, it's one of those situations where we always talk about.
I never said everyone in Nintendo's camp. I said Nintendo's ecosystem is comprised of people that will go bankrupt to support it. That doesn't mean everyone.
Some people.
That means that
but comprised of means
there.
A large majority.
No,
there are whales.
Comprised of means, dude, we all know that most cash shops are supported by whales, and the whales make up 10%.
Yeah.
But when I say World of Warcraft's player base is comprised of a bunch of people that will make themselves bankrupt in order to support whatever they put out, it doesn't mean that all of them is. It just means that there's a significant enough number that it doesn't matter what Nintendo charges, right? It doesn't matter. They can charge whatever they want. There's people that will drop it. They'll pay, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that puts pressure on the people that might not necessarily wanted to have paid that, but they don't want to be the only one without this game, so they sort of save up a bit and then finally drop the money on the game. But
I just don't think that it's a majority.
No. I don't think at all.
I don't think that there's a majority.
It's a majority
because I think that there's a lot of people that enjoy Nintendo products.
No,
and they just want to play Nintendo games. That's it,
dude. It's like, for example, if I told you the PlayStation community is comprised of people that would gladly see every other console and platform burn down in the exclusive war, does that mean everyone that owns a PlayStation is that? No, of course not. There's plenty of people that own PlayStation because that's the easiest way.
When you say comprised, the interpretation that I have is large majority.
No, at least that's not how I mean
large
it,
majority.
right? That's not English is not first language for me, but the way
neither
I mean
for me.
it,
So maybe both of us are wrong.
The way I mean it,
but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's a significant amount of people that are willing to do that, and yes, that I do agree.
And Microsoft doesn't have the same people,
and I've seen
right. Microsoft doesn't have the same sort of loyal fan base, if we could put it that way.
But I have seen a lot of these people come out of the woodwork and being all happy about like, oh yeah, it was about time. It should be more expensive. Yeah, fuck these poors, and it's like, bro, what the fuck, bro? Can you fit that much corpo cock in your mouth? Like, what the fuck? And the amount of people that have become overnight economists about like inflation is just like, that is Jesus fucking Christ.
Okay, I just looked up. Comprise is weird because even in the definition, it doesn't actually make it, because it can say consists of, right? The country exactly. The country comprises 20 states, right? Or it can make up or constitute a whole. So it can be either of those two. So a whole being the single breed comprises 50% of the Swiss cattle population.
That's why. So that's why I was saying comprise is a weird one.
Yeah, that's not how I meant it. Just to be clear to people, that's not how I meant it. What I simply meant was.
But anyway,
they're safer than Microsoft to do this because they have that. Wall.
They have a fan base, a more dedicated fan base.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen a lot of people come out of the woodwork willing to defend all of this stuff, and to me, it's just like it's so disgusting. It's like, what actually are you doing? Because number one, none of these people will acknowledge that there's just like a larger market nowadays, that they are getting much more value out of that market. But the thing is, it's like the only reason why they're increasing the prices is because they can. It's that simple. They can, and therefore they will. Now, whether or not Microsoft can, that's going to be a different discussion altogether, because I don't know if Microsoft can, especially when I start rattling off these prices to you. So let's get started. Here's what you're going to be paying. Now, they've already confirmed that probably this holiday you're going to be getting $80 games, certain ones. They haven't confirmed which ones. But right now, the thing that has been confirmed is the hardware sales. So, Xbox Series S. The Series S, the garbage tier console, the one that nobody wants to get. Okay? The 512 gigabytes version is going to be going from $299. Well, actually, it already went because these prices are already in effect. From $299 to $379.99.
Well, that's almost $100 increase.
That's $80 increase. Okay.
In terms of hardware, that's a significant increase because $299 is budget. $379
it gets better.
Is no longer budget, or at least it's on the verge. It gets better. Yeah.
Listen, here it comes. The Xbox Series S 1 terabyte version. Okay. That one used to be $349.99, now costing $429.99.
So no longer budget at all. We're now starting to get to mid-tier.
Okay. The Xbox Series X Digital used to be $449. It is now $500. Actually, I'm going to cut the fucking 49, okay? Fuck all this bullshit. It used to be $450.
Yes.
It is now $550.
So upper mid-tier now.
The regular Xbox Series X used to be $500, now $600.
So is there basically $100 increase on everything?
No, it gets worse.
Okay.
So it's like, for starters, I would just like to point out the last console that tried doing $600 didn't do so well. It was a PlayStation 3. Did not work out for them all that well. They kind of like got beaten over the head for the longest time during that particular generation. But following up on that, there's a 2 terabyte version of the Xbox Series X. And that one went from $600 to $730. That's a $730 console.
What?
And I would just like to remind, because I know that you're not into consoles and all of that.
No.
Okay. But let me actually see what the pricing is right now. Buy PS5 Pro. So the PlayStation, oh wow, the PS5 Pro. Wait, what the fuck? 700. Oh my God. I was not aware of this. Oh, this is the 2 terabyte edition. Jesus fuck.
What's the price?
This is crazy. I'm trying to see in dollars.
Yeah,
there's no offers even. I think the shit just like sold out.
Wow.
Because of the fact that what's happening now is because the Xbox did a price hike.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people believe that PlayStation's going to follow suit. So there's a lot of people that are like buying up these PlayStation 5 Pros.
So
that's the problem.
Here's what
I can't even find it on Amazon right now for whatever reason. But anyways, besides the point, what I wanted to say is that regardless of all of this, because you don't know about consoles and that stuff, this console is $730, the Xbox Series X 2 terabyte. The PlayStation 5 Pro is more powerful from a hardware standpoint, and I believe right now, at least before this price increase went live, it was significantly cheaper than $730.
Yeah.
So that's the point that I was bringing up.
Okay, so here's the...
And by the way,
yeah,
this is not the end of it, because they're also increasing prices on all devices. So like Xbox controllers are going up in price as well. The default one, $64, not 64, $65. The other one, $70. The one above that, special edition, $80. The limited edition, $90. The Elites is now $150 for the basic version of the Elite controller. Wow. And the best version of the Elite controller is $200, which is ridiculous.
So
but
here's what's interesting. Xbox doing this when they're still lagging behind PlayStation at a 2-to-1 sales metric. PlayStation sells 2 consoles for every 1 console Xbox sells. PlayStation, for example, has sold up until now 75 million consoles, whereas Xbox is at 26.6 million consoles. So Xbox is already lagging behind, and its answer to this is raise the prices. Like, people will absolutely pay more than they did before, I guess, right?
What's happening is Microsoft doesn't give a fuck about the Xbox hardware business at all. Like that's why they did the campaign where everything is an Xbox, which was an ad that I'm personally not a big fan of, but you can play Xbox on your phone, you can play Xbox on smart TVs through the cloud and all of that bullshit, right? So that's what they're shooting for. They don't really care whether or not you buy an Xbox. The people that are going to buy an Xbox is mostly at this point going to be parents that are picking it up for their kids or some shit like that, or family members that are going to be picking it up for other family members. It's not the actual person that is going to use the device that is probably going to go pick up an Xbox, at least not at this price, I would imagine, for a majority of people. And the thing is, Microsoft is positioning themselves because they're also selling stuff on PlayStation. So I think that Microsoft is just straight up, we're getting out of the hardware market. We're done. Like, we're just going to sell the PCs and PlayStation and fuck all this. I think that's the move they're doing. And they're just like, okay, whatever's left of our hardware, if you buy it, buy it at a premium. Otherwise, go fuck yourself. Or probably a lot of people are going to heavily discount it during Black Friday, and people are going to see it as a really sweet deal, even though they're probably going to be buying it at the prices they were buying it before. So it's just like, but I think that ultimately Microsoft is just like, we're getting into the software business. Fuck this hardware nonsense.
I think you're probably correct. I'm not defending their price hike because it is disgusting.
No, of course not.
But
yeah, it is.
We just had the leak of the Xbox handheld, where Xbox is now also getting into the handheld market, and it looks like a beefy boy. Like it looks like a piece of meat. That thing's big.
So it's going to run stuff natively? I haven't seen anything.
We have no idea
this.
about the specs. I mean, literally, it's big. So it looks like there's a lot of stuff going on in there. We'll have to wait and see. But I think in this regard, and this is something that reluctantly always say. But in this regard, I actually do think that Phil Spencer is a genius. Phil Spencer understood before anyone else that the future is subscription based. Value for money.
Unfortunately.
Value for money. And this, a few years ago, we may still have had arguments about, well, I want to own the games that I play. Well, nowadays, you no longer own the games that you play. So why even pay?
I own my miniatures,
Yeah,
motherfucker.
you do own your...
Pry them from my cold, dead fingers.
You do own your minis.
Okay?
But every other game that you buy, you don't own. We already know this, right? Even your favorite companies. The game is not yours. The game is only there as long as they choose to support the game. So now it starts to become a lot more, I guess you could say, attractive to just have the subscription. It's a hell of a lot cheaper, and you get a breadth of games that you, honestly, if you wanted to buy all of those games, you'd go bankrupt. Most of us wouldn't have the money to buy all of these games. So Microsoft is already in that thing. We just now found out that they're doing a remake of Gears of War, and or a remaster of Gears of War, and that's actually going to PlayStation as well. Gears of War, by the way, used to be Microsoft's answer, bad answer as it was, to God of War, right? They were trying to get people to exclusively buy console Xbox because we have Gears of War, guys. Look at us. Forget about Kratos. Who cares about that guy? Look at us, our guy.
I mean,
you know,
I don't think that it's necessarily against God of War. I think their whole point is like we're the dude bro shooter console, which they used to be with Halo and Gears. And Sony was more like the RPG console.
Yeah, but remember the point I'm making more is it was their attempt to try and drive, because Sony became the premier console, not because of graphic or hardware superiority, but gaming superiority. They had the games that everyone wanted to play, and those games were exclusive.
PlayStation 4 was weaker than the Xbox One X, or what it's called.
That was Microsoft's attempt to try and say, look, we have exclusives too. Now that's going to PlayStation, right? So Microsoft is clearly no longer interested in the console war. And now with Microsoft also moving to the handheld, I think Phil Spencer has correctly surmised, and this is something you and I have spoken about before, so I won't go too deep into it. I do believe that the end of console is coming. With technology moving as fast as it is, with the ability now to basically build a PC into a handheld, there's no more reason for a console. Like, the reason you would had for buying a console is starting to disappear fast. And I think Xbox knows this. So they're more interested in getting people to subscribe to Xbox Game Pass. That's also, by the way, I think why, because Microsoft has already announced that their games are also getting more expensive.
What if this is a 4D chess move?
Yeah.
What if Microsoft is like, well, we ain't selling these bitches anyways. Let's make them more expensive and see if Sony makes the mistake of making their shit more expensive too.
It's possible. I wouldn't put it past them, but I think
because it puts pressure on Sony to increase their prices as well.
Yeah.
And if Sony goes that route, they might actually lose some customers, because one of the advantages they have right now is that pricing.
True, but also
we'll have to see how that pans out.
At the same time, I know 75 million console sales sounds good, but if you compare it to the number of sales you can get from just releasing 4 brilliant games a year, the 4 brilliant games are going to outperform 75 million consoles. Because remember, the actual margins on these consoles are very slim.
They're much small. Yeah, they're much smaller than the margins on.
You might say, well, 75 mil, bro, that's like $600 per or $500 per. And it's like, yeah, but they're not getting $500 per. They're getting maybe $100, if that, because shipping is also going to be a lot more expensive because games no longer need to be shipped. So fundamentally, if you go all in on the gaming space, you're able to make a lot more money. than you would if you're going into consoles. And I think Microsoft has realized this. The pocket PC or the portable PC is starting to become a lot more prevalent. We've just found out that Steam Deck 2 is coming. You now have the Nintendo Switch 2. The Asus, by the way, this Xbox console is a merger between Asus and Xbox. They're working together on this handheld. So fundamentally, I just don't see a world where I think Xbox and PlayStation will continue to exist in the next decade as consoles. They're going to have to go all in on the handheld side of things if they want to continue. And then we're back
seems
to
like
games.
I might have been wrong about the PS5 Pro being cheaper, because all I can find is like 800 euros.
Dude, I would not be surprised.
Pro. I did not know it was that expensive. 800 euros?
Well,
You're fucking
here's why I think it is. And it's something
it is. It definitely is.
No. But here's why I think. And this is something that Kotaku wrote an article about, I think yesterday or the day before, where they were like, console prices are going to be 69% more because of Trump's tariffs. And they listed a bunch of prices, and one of the prices
in Portugal,
one of the prices people listed was in euro, and I was like, Trump's now making policy for Europe? Who knew? The guy just wanted Canada and Greenland. Apparently, Europe is now a state of America as well. Because why is that? Like, if
it's the new world order.
You know, Trump
Alex
is now
Jones was right all along.
Trump is now the king of the world because apparently American tariffs are raising prices in Europe. But this is the scumbag of the companies, right? We can charge more in America. Let's charge more in Europe. You know, let's get all our prices up. I wouldn't be surprised if this is something Microsoft is doing as well. And maybe sort of like a last hurrah. It's all going to be. This is a bit of a tangent, but just this week I was watching a video about the history of AMD versus Intel. And what's super interesting is what almost killed AMD was their inability to change with the times. They were sort of doubling down on doing the same stuff over and over again when everyone else was moving on to bigger and better things. And Intel is now in the same spiral. They're not moving with the times. They're sort of doubling and tripling down on the same design, hoping that it will yield some kind of a result. And we're now seeing it with ARM, the new ARM chips that Apple has already moved over to entirely. And, x86 is sort of still held on to as like a final death cry, but a lot of studios are. The point is, you generally speaking, you see the end of studios or companies where a company is either unwilling to change or incapable of reading the landscape. And in this war currently, it looks like Sony is failing to read the landscape. It still believes that the future is PlayStation 5 or PlayStation. We just need to keep making these consoles and people will continue to buy them. But in an ever-changing world where technology is getting better, we're able to make handhelds that are, in some cases, just as powerful as your console. The question becomes a lot more, do I really want to buy a PlayStation that has, certain games that don't even launch on it, especially indie games? Or do I just buy this handheld that plays all games? What's the point of buying the console? From my perspective, I think we're in an interesting period in time. It's going to be a very interesting look. In about 5 years, we might sit here and go, man, Sony was right. Like Microsoft did on the wrong thing.
There's no predicting.
Yeah.
There's no predicting how this is going to change.
It's going to be an interesting play, nevertheless. But sort of on this train with Microsoft, we should also just talk about Microsoft and their game pricing increases. We've already found out that Activision's games are going to $80, maybe even $90. Microsoft has already announced that they're going to be increasing the prices on a lot of their games as well, the newer ones that's coming out. And I think this, again, is their play. You see, for most other companies, it is just pure greed. They just want more money because more money. For Microsoft, they have a vested interest in everyone raising their prices. Because once games get to a point where a single game is unaffordable for most gamers, Game Pass starts to look even more attractive. Because I can get that game for a fraction of the price. You know, and so I think that's what Microsoft is ultimately playing in. They want to increase their prices on things like Activision's Call of Duty and so on, because they don't care, right? You can play Call of Duty right now as part of your subscription.
Yeah.
So from their perspective,
it's all about the Game Pass.
Yeah. They just want everyone to be on Game Pass. Now, I honestly don't mind that because I'm a Game Pass subscriber myself. And I'm very happy with the Game Pass because it allows me to test out games. And if I love it, I buy it on Steam. And some games I enjoy, but not enough that I want to buy it on Steam. So then I can just play it on Xbox, on the Game Pass. But yeah, a company, however, and I'm probably going to need some emotional support after this episode. I'm going to have to get some kind of... I've never been to a therapist, or when I was very little, I think I was. But I find myself in a very awkward position. I think Andrew Wilson is the good guy.
Yes, of course. It makes perfect sense because Electronic Arts is saying that, hey guys, we're not going to raise prices.
Yeah, but
people are like, what?
I don't like this. This is not a nice feeling for me. I'm used to hating this guy. It's easy to hate him. He has a hateable face. Why is he saying things that why is he saying nice things, Rurikon? What is he playing at?
I have no idea, but somebody asked him during their quarter earnings call, whatever. They asked Wilson about the pricing power of EA's franchises and whether they're going to start taking a similar approach to the game publishers. And he said, the video game industry is very different today than it was a decade ago. Back then, it was all about selling discs in plastic boxes in stores. Now it's a very small part of EA's overall business. What they're saying is most of our stuff is digital. They have a wide variety of pricing options, from free-to-play all the way to deluxe editions and beyond. At the end of the day, whether we're doing something that costs $1, we're doing something that costs $10, or we're doing something that costs $100, our objective is always delivering incredible quality and exponential value to our player base. In my opinion, I kind of feel like he's just saying what he feels like people want to hear, because Andrew Wilson also knows nobody likes me.
Yeah.
So do people really care if I lie?
No.
Who gives a shit?
I mean,
I was going to say I'm not raising the prices, and 2 months from now, I'll raise the prices anyways. Yeah. I don't give a fuck. I can do what I want.
I think if Andrew Wilson is to be believed, and like I said, I feel very uncomfortable agreeing with this man, because it's easier. The world makes more sense when I hate him. But what Andrew Wilson, probably he doesn't even realize this, because most people in the industry doesn't seem to realize this. But raising prices is a very risky move. Because what the gaming industry is currently existing in is this sort of bubble where we can continue to make the games that we've made and just raise the prices. Because our games aren't selling as many copies anymore. And you hear all these articles coming out going, oh, it's harder than ever to make good games. The gaming industry gamers are harder than ever to please. It's like, oh, well, all of these other companies seem to do just fine in that. It appears to just be your AAA guys that suffer with this. But from their perspective, it is sort of like, if I can use an example in the real world, and I've seen this living in South Africa, you see a lot of businesses. Now, South Africa is sort of in a weird place. It's a very large country, but it doesn't necessarily have the population to support the size of the country. To give you an example, we have over 60 million people that live in South Africa, and our economy is very much almost like a first world country. Our banks are absolutely first world. Our financial sectors are absolutely first world. A lot of our economy is first world. It's like it's on par with places like Europe. The issue is that more than 40 million people in South Africa live off of government grants or no money whatsoever, right? I say more than 40 because it's actually 23 million, but of that, a lot of people are kids of parents that get money from the government, and the government doesn't give them a lot of money. It's like 20 euro a month that they get from the government, right? So it's not like they have money to spend on just random stuff. And then they'll do odd jobs as well here and there to get a bit of extra cash so that they can provide for themselves. But what happens is someone will start a business, a restaurant, for example, and sell food in an area where there's a lot of people, but there's not enough customers. And the product is maybe not that good quality to make people drive from all over to go buy from this business. And so what this business does is rather than increase the quality of the product, it just raises the price because it's trying to become profitable. I remember very distinctly one restaurant that did this, where almost every month their prices would get more and more expensive. And eventually it just got to a point where I said to my I think it was my dad at the time, I was like, why are we still coming here? The prices are more expensive. Their food isn't that great. Why are we still coming here? And we just stopped. And about a year later, they went bankrupt. Because this is the death spiral that a lot of
it was all you.
do.
Look at what you did. You fucking killed that mom and pop's restaurant. You happy?
Yeah, well, it wasn't actually a mom and pop store. It was a sort of chain store that ended up completely dying.
Oh, okay, fuck them.
Right? The entire chain store ended up dying because the quality was just not good. And because they're not making money, because the quality isn't that good, they're raising prices to try and tax their existing clientele to make up for the lost clientele. And that's where I think the AAA industry is. It's trying to go, okay, we can realistically sell maybe 1 million, 5 million copies. If we increase the price, that might make us a bit more money, so we might get closer to breaking even, because not a single one of them is willing to look. Rukon, I did a video, and in the research of this video, I asked a very simple question. Pricing budgets for games from 2007 to today. In 2007, the average budget for a game was between 30 and 60 million on AAA blockbuster titles. The average for all games was between 10 and 20 million. Right? At the time, there wasn't really an indie scene, so that wouldn't come until much later. Today, the average for a blockbuster is 300 to 500 million.
Yeah.
So we're looking at an astronomical increase in budgets, way more than what it needs to be. And no one seems to even want to talk about cutting down on that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's just very irresponsible budgeting, which we've talked about ad nauseum. But that's the one thing. Everybody wants to talk about inflation. Nobody wants to talk about the irresponsibility of gambling away hundreds of millions of dollars into a project that doesn't even have, any real perspectives of just like, it's just like, yeah, it's a gamble. We're just gambling away.
Yeah.
Couple of $100 million bucks.
The truth is, what the fuck there is inflation.
And then we're going to fire everybody that works on this fucking game because it's going to blow out. It's like, what do you mean?
The truth is, there is inflation. The budgets have inflated beyond belief.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that much to make video games. I guarantee you Clear Obscure did not cost that much. We don't know what it cost yet, but I guarantee you it didn't cost that much. And you have so many games coming out that doesn't cost even a fraction of that. And all of those games are doing well. But okay, we're not getting back on that. EA not raising prices, maybe that's a good thing. We'll end up seeing. Or they might just be more live servicing. So, yeah.
EA also had a Q4 that exceeded financial expectations, and it culminated in a strong finish to full year's results. And here's the interesting thing. They say that Split Fiction was actually attributed as one of the main drivers of growth for EA's fourth quarter full game sales. Split Fiction is the one by Joseph Fares.
I still want to play
the two women.
I still want to play that. I'm just too busy with all other games right now. But it is one of the games I really want to play.
So that was good, but it's also interesting to see that, like, oh yeah, we finished strong, fantastic results. We also just fired 300 people because fuck them.
Yeah, I think in the interest,
we're not raising prices. No. Also, we've been brutally successful, and also we're firing 300 people.
Yeah.
It's like a fucking roller coaster of emotions with Electronic Arts over here. It's just like, what the fuck?
He was probably going, wait, we're going to have some bad news in this quarter for a lot of people. Let's give them some good, we'll give them the price increase next quarter.
Yes. Andrew Wilson was living up to the meme, never let them know your next move.
Probably true. Just very quickly need to mention here, guys, Mafia the Old Country is a game that has also been announced a while back. I'm super hyped for the game. We have a little bit more information about the game now. It isn't an open world game. So not going to be open world. It is
Mafia has always been open world, I think.
Yeah, but this
Mafia is not really my kind of jam.
This particular one is going to be linearly based, right? So it's a linear story game.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, I kind of appreciate that. But more importantly, 50 buckaroos. So,
50 bones.
It's a 50 bone game.
Setting expectations.
Yeah, which I think is phenomenal. We're seeing more and more of these games coming out at $50 that just absolutely break out. You have Clear Obscure. You have Baldur's Gate, because that was also not even 50 buckaroos when I bought it during early access, but I think it ended up being like 50 bones.
Yeah, it was 50 bones when it came out.
And all of these games are doing phenomenally well, even at $50. So
fantastic.
Apparently.
Imagine respecting your players and doing well. No, we wouldn't want that.
No.
Fucking fleece them for all they're worth. Yeah. That's the way to go.
Which again just reminds me that I'm in agreement with Andrew Wilson. I'm going to take a while to get over this. But
Android Wilson.
Yeah. Let's finish today with a topic, I guess you could say. Nintendo.
Yeah.
Nintendo.
Good old Nintendo coming in. I mean, here's the thing, okay? Since we've pissed off so many people today, can I take a dump on the Pokemon community on my way out?
Please do.
I'm just gonna shit all over the Pokemon community on my way out. Like, listen, let's just be completely honest about this. Game Freak has put out irredeemable slop.
Yep.
That's what you guys have been getting.
Yep.
It's irredeemable slop. It's garbage. If you guys remember, if you watched the Switch 2 presentation and they showed us the glorious textures of the super version of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, or whatever the fuck that thing is called. Yep. It's like, oh, look at the glorious 4K textures. And I'm like, bro, that shit looks like it's a phone game from 2005.
Yeah.
Okay, my guy? That's the visuals that you guys are working with. Yeah. That's the animation quality that you guys are working with as well. That's the art style that you guys are working with, which is a damn shame. Yeah. Because Pokemon, I feel like the Pokemon fans deserve much better, but they continue to eat the slop, right? So that's what Game Freak has done. And then Pocket Pair came up and they were like, you know what? Fuck all this. We're going to put these cute little animals with machine guns. They're going to shoot things. We're going to give them grenade launchers. It's going to be a grand old time. And people loved it. People love Palworld. I mean, Palworld.
Palworld is so good because it's such a fun twist on a survival.
It's the fun game. Yeah. And then what does Nintendo do? Well,
they make their game better,
obviously,
right? They make a new.
No, we could. No. That's impossible. You could never. No, because at the end of the day, Nintendo knows. I mean, we're working with Game Freak.
All right.
Well,
Oh yeah.
Right. Game Freak. They're the ones that are making. Yeah, so Nintendo has to be like, it's not like the people working on Mario Kart or Super Mario. They're not the ones making Pokemon, right? We have to work with these guys over here at Game Freak that just consistently pull out this disgusting slop that then our other studio, Monolith Soft, just has to put them to shame whenever they pull out a fucking Xenoblade banger that just takes a massive dump all over all the Pokemon games that these guys have been working on with much bigger budgets, with much bigger profit margins, but yet somehow absolutely no fucking talent. It's impressive. So Nintendo realized that, we're working with Game Freak, so we possibly can't make a better video game. So what are we going to do instead? I know, fucking sue them. We're going to make a patent, which, by the way, the patent that they filed on US, this is hilarious, but that patent was filed after the release of palworld.
I don't know if you can do that.
Works.
I don't know if that should be allowed, if that's legally allowed.
It's because the patent was done in Japan already. It was just they then filed it into US. I don't know how this patent shit works. We need like a patent lawyer to kind of unpack this situation.
If there is someone in patent law that understands this, please explain it to us.
It definitely feels brutally unfair that they just like, game comes out January, and then I think the patent went into effect like fucking March or something like that. It was out of March or May. I think it was a month started by
It would be like me just going tomorrow and making a patent for Monster Hunter game videos and coming to you and going like, this is my videos because I have a patent for it now.
Now it would be equivalent to you doing something even more blatant, which would be like, I'm going to make a patent for the name Conscast. And you just feel like, all of your podcasts are mine now, motherfucker.
And I'm just like,
suck a
I
dick.
have a patent now. I was like, yeah, but you didn't have the patent when I started this.
You'd make a patent. Listen, you'd make a patent for Australian hats, and now you own my whole fucking brand. It's just like, bro, it is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
So this patent was about throwing animals out of balls or whatever. So they've had to remove that in a patch where now you summon your pals by just like.
Well, didn't they have to make the balls also squares or something? At one point they were talking about
what they
that.
had to do with the balls.
Yeah.
But, I know that now you summon your pets. But the latest one is now apparently you're not even allowed to use the pals to glide. Yes. And I'm just like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the actual, like, Nintendo is just straight up like fucking.
Yeah, they're just
taking
hammering
their
it.
Fucking lunch money repeatedly. They're like, fuck you, no flying with pals. And it's like, so wait. So let me get this straight. Does Aloy get to fly the pterodactyl robot now?
Yeah.
Do I get to ride monsters in Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, where you do something called wyvern riding, and I'm riding around the monster? Are you allowed to fly dragons in World of Warcraft?
Yeah, it's sort of like, it's very...
Wait, are you allowed to use creatures to glide in Fortnite?
Yeah, I mean, that's also another big problem now, right? Like,
because like, when does this end? Like, because this one is very, very like, they were like, from now on, by the way, for people that don't know, you used to be able to glide with pals. So you'd pick up pals that can like float or whatever, and you glide.
And they were actually the strongest glides. Like the glider that you would build would be whatever, but if you could get a monster or a pal that could glide, they'd be able to glide a lot further.
It would, But so you can still get the bonuses, but now you can only glide with a glider.
Yes.
But you get the bonuses from having like a gliding pal or whatever, but you can only glide. But to me, it's like, where does this fucking end? So now we can't have games that shoot monsters out of balls, which, let me just say, copywriting that, disgusting. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like on the level of what fucking Warner Brothers did with the Nemesis system, where it's like, well, you can't possibly have a video game where your enemy grows from conflicts with you. It's like, what the fuck? What are we doing? Yeah. How are these things even fucking legal at this point? But so you can't have games where you throw balls. Now you can have games where you're gliding from animals. How does this even make sense? How does this fucking make sense? It's just fucking ridiculous.
No,
it's fucking stupid.
It is absolutely
It straight up is.
And for some reason, and this is...
Imagine somebody patenting swords.
Yeah.
Like not one sword,
Just
the concept of swords. And all of a sudden it's like, can't have swords in video games anymore.
No.
Like, what the fuck are we doing? It's ridiculous.
My personal thinking about this is, this is why I have so little respect for, I would say, a lot of people in the Nintendo community. Because when palworld came out, rather than celebrate what this game was, and demanding that Game Freak live up to that expectation, they were the ones, the fans were the ones egging Game Freak to sue palworld for how dare palworld come up with an idea that only Game Freak is allowed to do.
But the best one was the one dude that came up with like the fucking 3D models of files and then like resized them and changed them around so that it would look more similar to the Nintendo one. And it was like, oh, see, it's the same thing. And then people were like, wait, these files are different. It's like, well, yeah, I resized them. It's like, well, wait, what? So you changed them? Dude, like, what the fuck are we talking? This is fucking crazy.
Yeah, there's no difference between this bike and the Empire State Building.
Unhinged.
You know?
These people were fucking unhinged with their fucking lunatic ravings about how they were just blatantly copying Pokemon. It's like, no, bro.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
But this is why I said you get what you deserve. The fan base for Game Freak and Pokemon is gonna always have to be okay with
what you deserve is fucking slop.
And this is one of those things where I sometimes wish that there was justice, for companies like this, because Nintendo, with what they're doing right now, should face justice. This company should die because they're being bullies. And they're being petty.
Die is a bit of a strong word.
I don't care, bro. Like, from my perspective, I should probably just preface this by saying,
I just don't think they should be
I'm not a Nintendo fan, right? I don't own any Nintendo games. I'll never own Nintendo games because I couldn't give two craps. So from my perspective, I just don't like bullies. I don't like people going around, and Nintendo obviously has a lot more money than Pocket Bear does. Even though Pocket Bear did really well, Nintendo has had a lot of money built up over many, many decades now. And so Nintendo is literally just throwing their weight around, doing whatever they want, right? And Pocket Bear, an indie studio that is trying to make really good games, are now consistently forced to make these nonsense changes just so that they don't further sort of complicate the court case. Because I think they're afraid. Because for those of you that don't know, Japan has a sort of very weird system where the big companies are kind of very unfairly treated in terms of they can get away with a lot. Right? And they can pretty much do whatever they want because the entire economy is built on a couple of very large corporations. And so Pocket Bear is probably a little worried that if Nintendo does end up taking them to court, the courts will just rule in Nintendo's favor because the last thing they want to do is piss off Nintendo. Because that is the thing that happens. It's not as bad as in South Korea, where I watched this entire documentary about Samsung in South Korea, and the fact that the owners of Samsung are basically the leaders of South Korea. They can do whatever they want, and nothing will happen to them. But it's still bad in Japan as well. So yeah, I just feel sorry for the guys from palworld that they have to go through this now. But hey, hopefully, from what I've heard, the game is still really good. It didn't really ruin the game. It's just something they now have to deal with.
Yep.
But all right.
It is what it is.
That brings us to the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys had fun with us, myself, and Rurikon. Rurikon, as always, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Mythic Banter. As always, be good to each other. Be kind to each other. Remember to hit that like button and that subscribe button because it does help out.
Like your stepsister.
Yeah, like your stepsister. Smack that little thing.
No.
Just give it a little smacky smack. Because it does help out a ton. Ladies and gentlemen, Be good to each other. Be kind to each other. And we will see all of you in the next one. Peace.